Chapter 43-26. Red Hero did not care about the Ro universe, as it was not important. More importantly, why had the unknowable mission's reward not been told to him? It was a pity that the portal to the Ro universe had been discovered and destroyed by the creature from the Ro universe, so he could not see it directly. Otherwise, he would not have asked Luin. If he wanted to verify it now, he could go to Zitrak and ask for another portal. However, if the Ro universe had truly been destroyed, then the unknowable mission would not give him a reward despite knowing about it. Something was wrong here. Could it be that the creature from the Ro universe had only disappeared and was not dead? On the other side, Luin used teleportation to find the second set of coordinates. It was the same as the first set of coordinates. He was very cautious, very cautious. The first set of coordinates. Red Hero had left the Ro universe for him, and he did not know what the second set of coordinates was. If not for his teleportation, Luin would not have come one by one. Of course, the most important thing was that he could not take the initiative against Red Hero. Red Hero was too strong, and he could not see the end of it. He also did not have any attachments, and the only ones who could not see him were Rang Yu and Ji He. He also wanted to understand the unknowable mission through Demao, so the initiative was completely in someone else's hands. However, nothing was absolute in this world. The initiative could change. He would take it slow, as he had experienced this many times before. The second set of coordinates. It was still empty, and there was nothing there. What the hell? The first set of coordinates was like this, and the second set of coordinates was the same. Was it still a dead universe? Luin checked, but there was no deathly still energy. He continued to search, and it took him half a year to confirm that there was no deathly still energy. There were also no signs that this universe had been rebooted. Either there was nothing there in the first place, or it had been so long since the universe had been rebooted that there were no signs of it being rebooted. The Tianyuan universe had been rebooted, and the human civilization had only appeared after that. All traces of it before that had been erased, and nothing could be seen. The next set of coordinates. Luin returned to the red shirt civilization below the astral plane. These coordinates were all set with the red shirt civilization as the center, so he could only set off from there. He teleported again and looked into the distance. This time, Luin saw the same unbelievable scene, the mother tree, a forest. There was only one mother tree in each universe. This was common sense, as some universes did not have mother trees. However, what Luin saw was a forest of the mother tree. He rubbed his eyes. It must be an illusion. How could a mother tree become a forest? However, in the distance, beyond the 20-year speed of the eternal life realm, there was indeed a forest of mother trees. It was an exaggeration to say that it was a forest, but there were more than 10 mother trees. The main reason was that the mother trees were so big that they could support a part of the universe. When these more than 10 mother trees were connected together, they were naturally seen as a forest. Moreover, it was a forest that spanned across a square inch. It was equivalent to more than 10 universes connected. This was extremely exaggerated. Its range far exceeded that of the Tianyuan universe, the Jiu Shao universe, and so on. Where did so many mother trees come from? The moment he saw the mother trees, Luin confirmed that he had found Demao. Demao's dish was made from the mother trees. Luin took a deep breath. He had found the third set of coordinates, which wasn't the worst-case scenario. He teleported closer and appeared in the crown of a huge mother tree. He gazed into the distance. Where was Demao? The mother forest was full of life, and there were all kinds of creatures. Luin looked at the giant crawling creatures that ran past him. Above him, birds flew about, and from time to time, strange beasts would appear to chase after the birds. No matter how he looked at it, this place was peaceful. Luin was able to scan every nook and cranny of the mother forest with his mirroring technique, but he couldn't find Demao. There weren't any humans either. Only these creatures could bring life to the mother trees. However, these creatures weren't very strong, and the most powerful ones were only progenitors. None of them had even comprehended the laws of the sequence. Luin wasn't in a hurry, and he simply waited. This was definitely where Demao was. Days passed, and soon, more than a year had passed. The heavens trembled, and the birds cried out in unison as they soared into the sky. On the tree trunks, groups of creatures were running about in panic. Luin looked into the distance. Demao had arrived. Demao's figure rapidly expanded, and he turned into a giant that was as big as the mother trees. He reached out and grabbed a mother tree. All of the creatures on the tree fell down like raindrops, but Demao tossed them aside as if he was shaking off dust. Demao then raised his hand and slammed down with a palm, chopping the mother tree in half. He then chopped it into dozens of pieces, tied it up, and carried it on his back. He then walked towards the door. Luin watched the entire process. Was this a woodcutter? Demao really knew how to be self-sufficient. Just as Demao was about to cross the door, he suddenly stopped and turned around to stare in Lu Yin's direction. His aura was clearly boiling, and his furious voice resounded through the heavens. You again. He then grabbed the mother tree that had been chopped into dozens of pieces and threw it at Luin. Luin took a step forward and soared into the heavens. He faced the dozens of mother trees that were hurtling towards him, but he calmly raised a hand. There was a loud bang as the void exploded, and a terrifying force swept out horizontally, transforming into a gale that bent the remaining mother trees. Demao roared and raised his arm to chop down. Luin grabbed the mother tree with one hand and absorbed the green specks of light. He pointed at the void with the other and released his strongest power. The power rippled through the void, and Demao's arm came down and tore apart the power ripples. He then ruthlessly pressed down on Luin, as if he was splitting apart a wave. Luin felt the suffocating pressure, and his lips curled up. Red Hero is here. Demao paused and roared, where is he? Luin mocked, I told you that you were afraid of him, but you didn't believe me. Compared to Red Hero, Demao, you're still lacking. But you can't be blamed. After all, you're only in line with one law of the universe. Demao's arms suddenly dropped. You're courting death. Luin teleported away, and another mother tree was cut down from above. Demao's strength was a little frightening. Although he might not be able to suppress Luin, Demao's strength was not necessarily his forte. It's just a visit. Look at how angry you are. Fine, if you're unhappy, I'll leave. Luin teleported away. Demao roared in anger and opened a door to rush in. Far away, Luin lay down in a hanging coffin. Come on. Demao's curses shook the divine tree. Throughout the history of the unknown, no one had cursed so harshly. This Luin has gone too far. He's been looking for you time and time again. Although he hasn't made a move, he's forcing you to make a move. 8 colors, you should take care of this. An unfamiliar voice sounded. Luin had heard it before, and it did not sound friendly. Air Mao, it was Air Mao. 8 colors sounded helpless. Green, Luin is looking for you again. Demao roared, Red Hero told him. Clear spoke up, Green, are you sure Red Hero knows where you are? How can he find you so accurately? Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Luin was speechless. Demao hated hearing the word misunderstanding the most. Misunderstanding my ass. That traitor betrayed his own civilization, and his actions are despicable. Who knows when he started targeting me? Fine, I told you last time that every time Luin looks for me, I'll expose him. You didn't believe me, did you? Luin, I know you're here. You're deliberately looking for me so that I'll expose the others. Fine, as you wish. Listen, Lan Mang lives in the blue sky realm. That's his civilization. Look in every direction. When you see a blue sky, that's the blue sky realm, and Lan Mang is there. Green, you're going too far. Lan Mang was furious. He had not expected Demao to expose him. The unfamiliar voice was low. Green, you're breaking an unknown rule. Demao sneered. What rule? 8 colors, tell me, am I breaking the rules? You're the ones who didn't hide it well enough. What? Only Red Hero is allowed to betray me, but I can't betray you. 8 colors, if you say that I'm breaking the rules, I'll shut up immediately. 8 colors did not move. Although this behavior was disgusting, it did not break the rules. At least, until now, none of the unknowns had attacked each other. Lan Mang's mind was still in a daze. He did not come to the blue sky realm often, especially after being injured by Patriarch Shan. He had been in seclusion to recover. He had come to the blue sky realm to take a look and learn more about the human civilization, but he had not expected to hear that he had been exposed. What did this have to do with him? He had not done anything. Clear spoke up. Luin, you're here, right? Come out and clear up the misunderstanding. We're all unknowns, and even if we can't be friends, we shouldn't be enemies. Luin did not speak. He did not care about anything else. As long as 8 colors did not stop him, he would keep an eye on Demao. Red Hero could figure out Demao's situation, but Demao could also figure out the others. Lan Mang was just a minor character, and Luin wanted to know more about the other unknowns. Clear was one of them. After all, he had participated in the war that had destroyed the ninefold civilization, so he was an enemy. Green, how do you know about the blue sky realm? Lan Mang asked. He had also hidden his information, not wanting to be discovered. Demao sneered. What do you think the unknowns are? The unknowns are the most unfair part of the core, but also the fairest part of it. As long as you achieve eternal life, you can join the unknowns, regardless of whether you're in agreement with 1 or 3 universal laws. Don't think that you're on the same level as everyone else just because you join the unknowns. You're still far from that level. Haha, there are 12 unknowns. Some of them change frequently, and some of them never change, the old man said. Lan Mang fell silent. Luin looked at the blue sky realm. The unknowns were indeed fair. At least here, those who were in agreement with 1 or 3 universal laws could converse and even curse at each other. With the unknown's restrictions, no one would look for trouble, and they might not even know each other's identities. However, this was also the most unfair place. The unknowns would not help anyone, and no one would stand up for you. If you want to resolve this, it's best to warn Red Hero and let Luin find me again. I can't say for sure who will be next. Although I haven't lived as long as some of you old fellows, I know quite a bit. You can try. Demao left after saying that. Luin was in no hurry to leave, as he would not be able to find Demao even if he left. Clear spoke up. Luin, come out. We know you're listening. The old man chuckled. You've completely taken advantage of Demao, little fellow. Demao is too impulsive. Everyone knows that he's being used. He knows it himself, but what can he do? The unknowns are not allowed to attack each other. The 8 colors should appear. The 8 colors' voice rang out. The unknowns do not interfere with their members' actions. Rules are great, and I understand that. However, the unknowns have their own rules, and we have our own rules as well. 8 colors, if Green dares to reveal anything about me, I'll leave the unknowns. The old man's voice was calm, and he even seemed to be smiling. Of course, the prerequisite is that he understands me. Chapter 43:27. Knowing Trace was silent, and no one spoke again. Luin waited for a while, but still no one spoke. 8 colors knew he was here. Similarly, no one spoke. A few more days passed, and no one spoke. Luin left. He pushed open the lid of the hanging coffin and looked around. Finally, his gaze fixed on the mother forest in the distance. Where's the mother forest? Lu Yin's eyes widened. Gone. He teleported to the mother forest and looked into the distance with the mirroring technique. He looked in all directions, but there was still no sign of it. Had it been taken away by Demao? Lu Yin was annoyed. If he had known, he would have absorbed the green light spots earlier. What a pity, what a pity. There were so many mother trees. Unwilling to give up, he looked around again and shook his head helplessly. He had miscalculated. Demao's movements were really fast, but it couldn't run away. The next time he found it, he would first absorb the mother tree's green light spots. He would definitely find it again. Luin teleported back to the Red Coat civilization to find Red Hero. Did you hear that? Luin stared at Red Hero. This last coordinate is meaningless. I still want to continue looking for Demao. Red Hero gave 3 more coordinates. Why don't you give me more? The more there are, the lower the probability of finding it. Aren't you afraid that I'll harm you? Luin smiled. I still have some confidence in myself. I'm convinced that you have so many ways to harm me. If Red Hero wanted to deal with Luin, there might be 1 or 2 great despairs or powerful civilizations. But to say more was definitely impossible. Luin could teleport. Those who could deal with him either had to conform to the 3 laws of the universe, be able to see distance as nothing, or have a strange talent. How many of these existences could there be? That Ro Yujo was one, and Red Hero could only have one place where he could possibly deal with him. Red Hero did not give any more coordinates. As Luin said, how could there be so many coordinates? There was no point in giving them casually. For teleporting, there was no time to waste on the road. Moreover, he also hoped that Luin would stir up the situation and lure out the mastermind behind the scenes. So Luin was sure that he would let him find Demao, but there was also the possibility that Red Hero wanted to try to deal with him. Let me remind you. I said that there must be a cyan location among the coordinates, but I didn't say that there was only one, Red Hero said. Luin smiled. There's still one of the 4 coordinates you gave me. You're trying to remind me of that, right? You want me to look for it? Impossible, I won't look for it no matter what. As you wish. With that, Red Hero left. Luin looked at the 3 new coordinates that had been given to him. These fishing civilizations did not seem to have appeared in the distant past, but that was relative to teleportation. If Luin did not have instant transmission and a set of coordinates, it would have been very difficult for him to find this place, even if he had broken through to the Eternal Realm. According to his previous idea, this was a completely new ecosphere, and there might be other ecospheres that were separated from the unknown ecosphere. He returned to the Red Coat civilization and continued to the next coordinates. He teleported continuously, and just like before, he looked at the coordinates before the last teleportation. He was still 20 years away from the coordinates, and this distance was generally safe enough. Mirroring technique. There was no universe in the distance. Luin was surprised and continued to look. A gray shadow entered his vision, and he focused on it. Was that a crow? A giant crow appeared in front of him. Its entire body was gray, and it looked like a stone carving. Only the eyes on its forehead had spirituality and looked like a real crow. But why did it have so many eyes? Luin saw 3 eyes, and there were 7 empty holes in the crow's head. They were clearly where the eyes had been, but they had all been dug out. A giant, stone-like crow towered in the sky with only 3 eyes. It was strange no matter how one looked at it. Luyên felt that the crow was looking at him. The moment he looked at it, the crow looked back at him. It was looking at him, right? Look, 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 whoosh, he couldn't move. Luyên wanted to teleport closer, but he found that he couldn't move. His body froze as he stared at the crow, unable to move. He used all his strength to try and move, but he couldn't even budge an inch. His body was fixed in the void, and teleportation was ineffective. He released the space in his heart and tried to use the power of time to escape. Streams of light shuttled around him, but he still couldn't move. A bead of sweat rolled down his forehead. Why couldn't he move? In particular, he couldn't even move his eyes. He was locked in the same position as the crow. Yes, they were looking at each other. It was the crow. The moment he saw it, it saw him as well, and he couldn't even move. What was this thing? A sense of helplessness welled up in his heart. Ever since he'd obtained teleportation, he'd felt so safe that he could even escape from a powerhouse like Red Hero. But at this moment, he couldn't even move. Was this Red Hero's trap? What was this crow? Luyên kept trying to escape, but the crow's pupils grew bigger and bigger until they covered the sky. It was so big that it seemed to swallow him whole. His body seemed to be sucked in, but it also felt like his mind was being sucked away. It had been a long time since he'd felt so powerless. Even against Red Hero's attacks, he could at least resist. Move, move, move. No matter what power it was, he had to move first. He even used the triple firmament sword intent to slash at himself. Even if he was injured, he still couldn't move. Gradually, black lines appeared around him. Some were long, some were short, and they seemed to extend from the crow. They filled the void and covered a certain range, and he happened to be in this range. If one looked at it from a distance, it would be a black line that stretched across the sky from the crow to Luyên. It would take an ordinary Eternal Realm cultivator 20 years to travel. This was an extremely exaggerated distance, as it only took a year to travel from the 9th firmament universe to the Tianyuan universe. Luyên was shrouded in the lines, but he didn't feel any danger. Still, he couldn't move. What he saw in front of him was the crow's eye. Suddenly, his finger moved. Luyin's eyes widened. It was a green light spot. The green light spot he'd absorbed from the mother tree had touched his finger, causing it to move. Luyên hurriedly covered his whole body with the green light spot in his heart. His body sprinted and escaped the range of the lines. When he looked back, the lines suddenly disappeared. He looked into the distance. At this moment, he hadn't used mirroring, so he couldn't see the crow. He didn't dare to look at the crow. At this distance, he could see the crow, but the crow's eye could also see him. It was the eye that had made him unable to move. Luyên hurriedly teleported away and reappeared far away from where he had just been. He panted heavily. What was that thing? How could it make him feel so powerless? If not for the green light spot, he believed that he would never be able to move. Whether it was strength or karma, he couldn't move. Was this Red Hero's method? To make him unable to move forever. But besides being unable to move, there had been no danger. If Red Hero wanted to kill him, he should have taken the opportunity to attack. However, it wouldn't be easy for Red Hero to reach his previous position. The distance was too far. The crow should have been the one to attack, but it hadn't done anything other than immobilizing him. What was the reason? Luyên looked into the distance and slowly calmed down. After a moment of contemplation, he used mirroring again and changed his direction. He saw the crow again. At the same time, the crow's eye also saw him. He couldn't move again. Luyin's expression changed, and he hurriedly covered his body with green light spots to avoid it. He teleported away and continued to change directions. But no matter how he changed directions, unless he appeared behind the crow's head in a blind spot, the crow's eye would also look at him the moment he looked at it. It was as if his whereabouts were completely within the crow's line of sight. This wasn't impossible. The crow could see farther than he could, so his whereabouts were naturally being monitored. But why hadn't the crow attacked? If not for the fact that the crow had immobilized him the first time and hadn't attacked, Luin wouldn't have dared to continue probing. Could it be that the crow wasn't alive? He teleported behind the crow, which was a blind spot. If he couldn't see the crow's eyes, then the crow wouldn't be able to see him either. Luin looked at the crow's gray back in the distance. It didn't have any aura. Was it really just a rock? He wanted to get closer to test it out, but if it wasn't dead, then he would be in danger. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 43:28. Just one look was enough to immobilize him. What would happen if he moved? Luin hesitated for a while before retreating. He would go back and ask around first. He teleported away and continued to teleport. When he returned to the three universes, he looked for Qinglian and asked if he had heard of the crow. The crow's coordinates came from Red Hero. Since it was related to Red Hero, then human civilization might have records of the crow. Of course, it was more likely that Red Hero had encountered it while traveling alone. That had nothing to do with human civilization. Qinglian shook his head, indicating that he did not know anything about the crow. However, he was also shocked by the ability to immobilize Luin. Red Hero gave you these coordinates. He must be up to no good. Perhaps he wants to use the crow to deal with you, but that doesn't make sense. If the crow wants to deal with you, you shouldn't be able to return. Luin thought so too. The crow's strength was unfathomable. Just one of its eyes was already so terrifying. Who knew how strong it was? But if it was too strong, why didn't it attack? Red Hero must have seen the crow. If he was immobilized, was Red Hero immobilized? If you can't do it, then don't look for the crow, Qinglian suggested. His expression was heavy. There are too many strange civilizations in the square meter. It's impossible to see everything clearly. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. If the crow is alive, I definitely won't provoke it. But it feels like an inanimate object. You want that eye? Qinglian was surprised. Lu Yin did not refute. Qinglian frowned. Actually, it's not impossible. That crow should have 10 eyes. There are only 3 left. If it's really an inanimate object, then the other 7 eyes should have been dug out. Luin said, one eye can immobilize me. If I can get that eye, can I get that ability? This was what moved Luin the most. Although his strength couldn't compare to a powerhouse with 2 laws, he was still strong enough to put up a fight. If he could obtain that ability and catch his opponent off guard, then he would be able to turn the tables against a powerhouse with 2 laws into a victory. The question now was whether the crow was an inanimate object or not. If it was alive, then he definitely could not provoke it. I'll go with you to take a look, Qinglian said. Luin was tempted, but he still refused. Qinglian's existence could restrain Red Hero. If something went wrong, the 3 universes would not be able to protect themselves. This might be a trap for Qinglian and his boss. It was impossible for Red Hero to get an answer, so he asked the wine. Luin teleported to the Red Shirt civilization and appeared in front of the Blood Tower to ask about the wine. 10-eyed crow. Jiuwen was shocked, and he stared at Luin in disbelief. Even when facing Red Hero, he had never been so shocked. Luin sighed in relief. It seemed like Jiuwen knew. Senior, do you know about the crow? Jiuwen stared at Luin. Tell me more about it in detail. Don't leave out anything. Lu Yin recounted the first time he had seen the crow, including his feelings. Jiuwen listened attentively, and his eyes flickered with lingering fear. He then looked at Lu Yin and said in a heavy voice, "You were actually able to escape from the 10-eyed crow's line of sight. How fortunate, how fortunate. It's my fault for forgetting such an important thing. I should have reminded you earlier. This is Red Hero's trump card." Lu Yin was confused. Red Hero used this 10-eyed crow to deal with me. Jiuwen nodded. 10-eyed crow, a creature that only exists in legends. It is not a legend in the eyes of ordinary people, but a legend in our eyes. It can even be said that it is a legend in the 9th base. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold. A legend in the 9th base. Legend has it that the 10-eyed crow was born from the universe. It is immortal and eternal, and even time cannot trace back to its origin. It is temperamental and might destroy a civilization because it does not like it. It might also be in a good mood and not care if you ride on its head. In short, it is a strange and powerful creature. Legend has it that every eye of the 10-eyed crow has an indescribable power, and it is known as the pinnacle of talent. No one can defeat the 10-eyed crow at its peak. It is theoretically the most invincible existence in the entire square inch. Fortunately, it is already dead. It died in the hands of 9th base. Lu Yin was shocked. 9th base killed it. Jiuwen said, "I also heard from my master that the 10-eyed crow attacked the human civilization for some reason. Several base masters of 9th base worked together to kill it. I heard that the final attack came from the red shirt base master under the stars, Hong Shuang. She used the merciless path to burn the 10-eyed crow and turned it into a statue forever." At this point, he looked at Lu Yin. It seems like the legend is true. If not, Red Hero would not know where the 10-eyed crow was. He lured you over to use the 10-eyed crow's eyes to deal with you. You were lucky to be able to escape. Lu Yin was also glad. If not for the mother tree's green light spots, he would not have been able to escape. Fortunately, the 10-eyed crow was already dead. Mr. Lu, legend has it that every eye of the 10-eyed crow is the pinnacle of talent and can be controlled by humans. My master once regretted that he did not try to seize its eyes. Now, there are only 3 eyes left. Since you can escape from the power of one of them, perhaps you can try to take it. Lu Yin originally had the same thought, but Jiuwen's words shocked him. Can I? It should be possible. Are you sure that the 10-eyed crow is dead? Jiuwen nodded and said solemnly, "When I was born, the legend of the 10-eyed crow was that it was dead. Later on, I asked my master, and he confirmed that it was dead. I heard that there were many attempts to let the elite prodigies take its eyes in the 9th base. My master tried to compete but failed. If it was not dead, the 9th base would not let anyone try it. When I was born, it was already the end of the 9th base civilization. There were enemies everywhere, and such attempts had long stopped. No one ever mentioned it again. I did not expect Red Hero to use the 10-eyed crow to deal with you." Lu Yin looked into the distance. During the 9th base civilization, those elite prodigies would have absolute powerhouses protecting them when they tried to take them away from the 10-eyed crow's line of sight. Now, there was none. Red Hero should be very sure that he would be frozen. Now that he had appeared, what was he thinking? Of course, Red Hero was not sure if he had seen the 10-eyed crow before. Also, since Red Hero knew where the 10-eyed crow was, did he know? Did Xianling know? Did they not try to take its eyes? Or did they try and fail? Senior, how many eyes did you hear of the 10-eyed crow remaining? I don't know. Master did not say. He only said that he had not heard of anyone succeeding. Perhaps he did not say anything even if he succeeded. That's possible. Actually, the one with the highest chance of success was the 4th stronghold's Heavenly Eye tribe. Unfortunately, they are all gone now. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. Was the fourth stronghold's heavenly eye tribe gone? No, they were still around. They had just changed their name to the Longevity Civilization. Lu Yin was very clear that the Longevity Civilization was a human civilization. Jingmin Shangyu could not tell because she did not have the heavenly eye, but he did. How could there be so many coincidences? The Longevity Civilization just happened to be able to repair the heavenly eye and had even helped him deduce the heavenly eye battle technique. It was unbelievable that they were so friendly to human civilization, and they were even willing to let him enter the eye world. When Chang Huai spoke to him, his tone was filled with vicissitudes and even guilt. In the past, Lu Yin had not known which branch of human civilization the Longevity Civilization belonged to, but now he knew. The Heavenly Eye tribe was a very clear name. They were from the fourth stronghold. Wu Tian's heavenly eye had not been obtained through cultivation, but rather through awakening his innate gift. There were two ways to obtain the heavenly eye from the Longevity Civilization. One was to be bestowed, which was through the vine climbing competition, and the other was through self-awakening. Although the Longevity Civilization did not mention it, Jingmin Shangyu had stayed in the Longevity Civilization for a period of time and had heard of such rumors. Chapter 43-29. Now that he was so close, Lu Yin could see that there were many wounds on its body. Its feathers had been torn apart, revealing bone in many places. Its entire body had been roasted into a gray stone statue, a result of the Red Frost Base Lord's merciless path. Lu Yin did not know how strong the Base Lord was, but it was at least stronger than Red Hero. Even someone like Red Hero had needed several people to work together to deal with the Ten-Eyed Crow, which showed just how powerful it was. The Base Lord also had a stabilized turbid treasure. It could be said that the Base Lord had a stabilized turbid treasure. Its strength was not much weaker than Patriarch Shan's. This Ten-Eyed Crow had required several experts at Patriarch Shan's level to fight it. It was no wonder why it was invincible in the core space. Lu Yin raised his hand. He touched it. It was cold to the touch and felt like stone. Lu Yin slowly rose until he was behind the crow's neck. He moved slowly and saw the eye. At the same time, the eye also saw him. He could not move again. He used the mother tree's green light to push it away and looked at the back of the crow's head. Its eyes could move and were flexible. Was it really dead? Or was it not dead? Was its consciousness trapped by its body? Lu Yin took off the eye. But how could he do that? Lu Yin faced the crow and took a deep breath. He determined his position and teleported right in front of the crow, almost touching the eye. He raised his hand, but he could not move. The mother tree's green light attached itself to his arm, and he slowly raised it to grab the crow's eye. At this moment, the crow's eye was not far away from Lu Yin's. It was so huge that it stared at him, causing him to panic. As his hand approached, the starry sky seemed to flow in reverse. His body was swallowed up by the crow's eye, and it also felt like time was flowing in reverse. Lu Yin exerted some strength and his finger touched the crow's eye. It was one of the three eyes that had been staring at him all this time. A flowing sensation spread along his arm, and in that moment, Lu Yin's forehead opened. Scenes from the past appeared in his mind. They were scenes from the eye world when his celestial eye had absorbed the eye power. Chang Huai had lied to him and said that it was a simulation, but it was actually the past. These were scenes of the celestial eye tribe's past battles. Scenes of their usage of the celestial eye had been preserved in the eye world. One of the scenes was exactly the same as what Lu Yin was doing right now. Someone had touched something with their hand, and Lu Yin now knew that they were touching the Ten-Eyed Crow's eye. Someone from the Celestial Eye clan had obtained one of the Ten-Eyed Crow's eyes. That scene overlapped with what he was currently experiencing, and Lu Yin finally understood. He released his eye power and connected it with the Ten-Eyed Crow's eyes. The purple eye power oppressed the heavens, causing the surroundings to sink. The 10-eyed divine crow's eyes were intelligent and cold as it stared at the heavenly eye. Luin suddenly struck out with his palm and struck the 10-eyed crow's eye, causing the eye to become dazed and stunned. It was at this moment that Lu Yin's pupils boiled and completely enveloped the eye, plucking it off. The moment the eyeball was plucked out, it suddenly shrank and turned into a ray of light that flowed into the heavenly eye. Lu Yin took a few steps back, feeling dizzy. He immediately sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to cultivate. The heavenly eye was undergoing a metamorphosis. Other people might not be able to do it, but the heavenly eye race could. Even if Lu Yin had plucked out the 10-eyed crow's eye, he would not have been able to fuse it with his own body and would have only been able to use it as a turbid treasure. However, because of the heavenly eye, this eye would become his own ability. This was a gift from the heavenly eye race, a method that their ancestors had used. Days passed, and the heavenly eye on Lu Yin's forehead would occasionally expand and shrink. Blood dripped down from his forehead, and there was an unforgettable pain. However, Lu Yin had experienced this pain more than once, so he could endure it. As the eyes fused, unfamiliar memories suddenly appeared. He saw battle after battle and civilization after civilization, and all of this came from the 10-eyed crow's memories. He saw a red-clothed woman being frozen in the void, and a terrifying killing move followed, but it was also blocked by her red umbrella. He saw a middle-aged man in luxurious clothes unleash a powerful punch that could shatter the heavens. He also saw an elder with 7 needles at his fingertips. Lu Yin's memories constantly changed, and he could not see the specifics at all. Many scenes flashed by. Suddenly, Lu Yin opened his eyes, and the heavenly eye on his forehead also opened. He panted heavily and only recovered after a while. He did not dare to look at the 10-eyed crow, as this crow had 2 eyes, and only the heavens knew what abilities it had. He immediately teleported to the crow's back, and only then could he not see its eyes. At this moment, the heavenly eye on his forehead had a trace of spirituality, and it constantly rotated. Lu Yin used the heavenly eye to look in a certain direction, and the void suddenly froze. Black lines suddenly appeared and extended into the distance like a black tunnel. This was the ability that had frozen him. Lu Yin was delighted, as he had obtained it, but he did not know what level of experts it could freeze and how much of an effect it would have on Red Hero. Also, it could be used against Xianling, as this ability was suitable for dealing with teleportation. Just as he thought about this, Lu Yin felt that something was wrong. The 10-eyed crow had killed Xianling before, so she definitely knew about this ability. In that case, she might be able to freeze him the first time, but she might not be able to do so the second time. Once Xianling knew that he had obtained the 10-eyed crow's eyes, she would definitely be on guard. This was not the best method to deal with Xianling. As long as those strange birds did not make eye contact with him, it would be difficult to stop teleportation by just freezing the void. Other than that, the heavenly eye could now see very far, and it was close to the limit of the mirroring technique. This should have something to do with his cultivation, as once he broke through to the eternal realm, the distance he could see would transform, and he would be able to see even further. At the same time, there was another ability that surprised Lu Yin. As long as someone was looking at him, he would be able to sense it, regardless of the distance. Of course, he had to open the heavenly eye. Even if it exceeded the limit of the mirroring technique, as long as someone was looking at him, he would be able to see that person. This was the special ability of the 10-eyed crow's eyes, and it was truly ruthless. The ability to freeze someone came from the 10-eyed crow. In that case, it would be called crow freeze. Lu Yin looked at the 10-eyed crow's back. It still had 2 eyes left, and he did not know what ability it had. He did not dare to try it, as the crow freeze was already very risky. The first time, he did not know what it was, otherwise, he would not have tried it unless there was an absolute powerhouse protecting him. If he faced the abilities of the other 2 eyes, he would be easily toyed to death. After all, the 7 eyes had been taken away, and the last I would definitely be the most difficult to deal with. The 10-eyed crow was clearly dead, but its eyes were still so powerful. It was hard to imagine how powerful it had been at its peak. In his memories, he vaguely saw several base masters attack, including Hong Shuang. He saw her, and it was very similar to what he had seen when Yang's memories were shaken. Hong Shuang might be in the mirage domain. There was also a middle-aged man, and he did not know who he was. That old man was definitely the master of the 7th stronghold, and he held 7 needles in his hand. The 7 needles of Yama were fascinating. Lu Yin closed the heavenly eye and looked at the 10-eyed crow deeply before leaving. In the future, he would definitely come again after he learned more about the 10-eyed crow. As for the remaining 2 eyes, he hoped that they would not be taken away by others. Extreme innate gifts were too difficult to deal with. He teleported back to the 3 universes, and as soon as he arrived, he saw Grandmaster Qingchao in Yihai. When he saw Lu Yin return, Grandmaster Qingchao said, "Do you not know about the forced recruitment?" Lu Yin was surprised. Forced recruitment. You can refuse, but you only have one chance, Grandmaster Qingchao said. Lu Yin pondered this, as he did not know if he should refuse. Qinglian Yu appeared. Do you know who the opponent is? Grandmaster Qingchao shook his head. I will not inform you in advance. Untraceable? Lu Yin asked. If a strong enemy appeared, they should be able to detect it, such as Xianling. Grandmaster Qingcao's expression was solemn. The unknown does not have a fixed range, and this battle might take place extremely far away. No one knows about it, and there must be someone among the unknown that knows who the strong enemy is, but that person will not tell us. Could it be Xianling? Qinglian Yu guessed. Lu Yin was also thinking that if it was Xianling, he would participate in the battle. After all, the human civilization had been targeted by Xianling, and if he helped the unknown to deal with Xianling, it would reduce the pressure on the 3 universes. The more he understood Xianling, the more he would be able to deal with it. But what if it was not Xianling? What kind of strength would the unknown be? For the unknown to be forced to participate in the battle, one could imagine how strong the enemy was. Lu Yin did not want to get involved, as he did not sincerely want to join the unknown, and he wanted them to be destroyed. There was no conclusion to this kind of discussion, and there were only 2 choices, to go or not to go. Lu Yin entered Trace and wanted to chat with others to see if he could learn anything, even though the possibility was very small. However, when Lu Yin entered Trace, he discovered that there was not even a sliver of possibility because his voice could not be transmitted. 8 colors sealed everyone's voice, and at this moment, no one in Trace could talk to anyone else. Lu Yin, you are being forced to participate in the battle. Do you want to participate? 8 colors asked. Lu Yin asked, if I participate, can I withdraw when I am no match for the enemy? This is war, and like all the wars you have experienced, it is not a game. I have a chance to refuse, right? Sure. Lu Yin didn't want to participate, but he only had one chance to do so. Especially since 8 colors had said that the next opponent he would be forced to fight would likely be Xianling. 8 colors, you pulled me into the unknown mostly to deal with Xianling. If the opponent is Xianling, I'll definitely participate. Can't you even tell me this? If you don't tell me, I might just refuse. You have the right to refuse, but only once. 8 colors was stubborn. Lu Yin was helpless. What are the benefits of participating? Killing the enemy powerhouse will give you a corresponding reward. The advantage is that the difficulty is lower than actually completing a mission. It is very difficult for you to complete a 4 stars mission, but you might be able to do it in the war. Chapter 43:30. Lu Yin looked at the colorful divine tree in the distance. He did not expect this to happen. This was a good thing for human civilization. They would be protected by the unknown for 1,000 years. Red Hero would not be able to attack the three universes. Of course, they could not attack the Red Coat civilization below the stars either. This was a huge temptation. He had always been worried that Red Hero would attack the three universes. For this reason, he did not hesitate to trap Red Hero in the Red Coat civilization below the stars. But for someone who had no bottom line, any means were useless. Red Hero was free as long as he did not attack him. He could do anything at any time. Although 1,000 years was a short period of time, it was only a benefit given by the unknown. More likely, it was 1,000 years for the unknown to heal. Otherwise, if the enemy used this period of time to do something, it would be disadvantageous to the unknown. Regardless of the reason, Luin needed this 1,000 years. 1,000 years was enough for him to break through something. At the very least, he could go to the immortal civilization and try to pluck the other eyes of the 10-eyed crow. He could build a high mental wall and track Demao. He could do many, many things. No matter how cruel the war was, for him who had teleportation and crow immobilization, he could escape unless he encountered an existence that conformed to the laws of the three universes. 8 colors, with my strength, you won't arrange an old monster that conformed to 2 or 3 universes as my opponent, right? Luin asked. 8 colors said, this is war. A war that can only be won and not lost. Every unknown is precious. Luin pondered for a moment. He gritted his teeth and said, okay, I'll participate. The next moment, scenes appeared in the hanging coffin where Lu Yin's consciousness was. They were the strong enemies that were about to fight. These scenes revealed all the information about the enemy. Lu Yin could see as much as the unknown knew. Of course, seeing did not mean that he understood. Lu Yin stared blankly at these scenes. The enemy was it. At the same time, he heard voices outside. This is troublesome. It's actually this civilization. 8 colors, can I go back on my word? This was Demao's voice. Then, the old man said, sigh, this is a big loss. Clear also said, avoid this battle if you can, 8 colors. This is too disadvantageous for us. 8 colors did not speak. Obviously, this battle was unavoidable. Luin was not in a hurry to speak, and he instead finished reading through the information that 8 color had given him. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. No wonder these old fellows didn't want to fight. That's right, Luin, did that little guy participate in the battle? The old man suddenly thought of something and shouted. Demao raised his voice. That's right, where's that little thing? Come out and talk. 8 colors, invite Luin to join the battle. He can turn the situation around, Chase said. The 8-colored voice sounded, Luin agrees to participate. All right. Hee. Thank you. I'm counting on him. Demao, Luin might not be willing to help you. So he's willing to help you. I won't help anyone, Luin said firmly, which silenced Jizong. After a while, Clear said, Luin, you should understand the enemy's civilization. Can you help us? Lu Yin's lips curled up, nope, we're not friends anyway. Clear said helplessly, this battle is also for the unknown. Luin said, for the unknown, I can give my life, so I'll do my best in this battle. Everyone, take care of yourselves. Kid, don't be too arrogant. Do you really think we can't do without you? Demao shouted angrily. Luin sneered, I wanted to help you, Demao. After all, we've already visited each other. Now I won't. Demao was speechless. Hee, little guy, tell me your conditions. Hee, old man, don't pretend to be deep. Tell me your family first. You don't know my family's name. I'll tell you first. Someone will know. I'll tell you about the Red Hero. It's definitely something you don't know, the mouse suddenly said. Luin was interested. Sure, tell me first. Will you still help me if I tell you? Humph, how would I know if I don't tell you? You want to gain something without risking anything. Do you think everyone is an idiot like you? You. Demao was furious. Che was still very polite. Luin, war requires unity to win. The other party is not to be trifled with. They're very strong. If you help us, we'll help you. Luin agreed. Che is right. Okay, for Che's sake, leave the last blow to me. Hee, the old man was speechless. It's not that simple. Otherwise, you wouldn't be called a hooligan. What else can I do? You don't want me to fight alone, do you? That's not necessary, but you'll have to put in some effort. After all, once the other party notices something is wrong, it may be too late. So, you still want to act. That won't do. It'll take a lot of effort. Do as you please, Luin said and left the whereabouts. The whereabouts, the old man and the others shouted a few times but there was no response. Demao said angrily, he's playing with us. Che was very calm, that's not necessary. Luin said he'll leave the last blow to him. Demao snorted, leaving the last blow to him is called helping. I can even bring my own ultimate combat power below immortality. This is a hooligan. If I'm not careful, I'll be in trouble. Ba Color, must we start a war? Ba Color said, war is not started by one side. Hee, the old man laughed, in this war, we'll win if we don't lose. That little guy wants benefits. Give him enough benefits and he'll cooperate with us obediently. Ba Color, when will the war begin? 100 days. On the other side, Luin left the whereabouts with a serious expression. This war was not simple and he had to prepare. The first step was to look at the cause and effect. Luin appeared at the back mountain of the above the sky sect. He greeted Mr. Mu and threw out the cement. The cement was the owner of the skyline. Back then, Luin found the red coat civilization below the stars through this skyline. The cement was heavily damaged by him and thrown into Mount Supreme. He had always wanted to look at the cement's cause and effect, but he didn't have the time. He was delayed by the red coat civilization below the stars. Now, he had no choice but to look at it because the civilization he was fighting against was the cement, the country of mud and water. The cement was thrown out in a miserable state. Although so many years had passed, it hadn't been able to heal. When he saw the cement again, Luin narrowed his eyes. Sure enough, the cement had fallen to the eternal realm. It wasn't because it was heavily injured, but because it wasn't an eternal realm powerhouse. The country of mud and water was a strange civilization that used eternal life as bait. It was a famous rogue of the square inch. This civilization was very powerful but also very troublesome. They specialized in collecting civilizations to fight and used civilization as a weapon to restrict eternal realm powerhouses. The real reason they were called rogue was their absolute method, cause and effect designation. The so-called cause and effect designation was not the ability to comprehend cause and effect. Instead, all creatures in the country of mud and water could designate the cause and effect of killing them to an existence before they died. It didn't matter if this existence killed them or not. This was also the reason why all the powerhouses in the square inch who understood the country of mud and water were unwilling to fight against them. Eternal realm powerhouses were most afraid of cause and effect. Even if the immortal Plume civilization specialized in killing eternal realm powerhouses, they relied on their own sleep and the time ability of the great dream of the ages to resolve it. No one could ignore cause and effect. Ancestor Shan was no exception. Therefore, the country of mud and water was called rogue. They were hated by all eternal realm powerhouses, but they couldn't deal with them. Civilizations without eternal realm powerhouses couldn't beat them. After all, they were a fishing civilization and had more than one eternal realm powerhouse. After learning about the characteristics of the country of mud and water, Luin felt that he had encountered a rogue. He finally understood how others felt when they encountered him. Eternal realm powerhouses didn't want to deal with him. If they lost, they would lose their lives. If they won, they would increase their cause and effect. Those who weren't eternal realm powerhouses couldn't beat him. It was really disgusting, so it was called rogue. It was the same for the country of mud and water. When they encountered a stronger civilization, they were unwilling to fight with them. Even if they hurt the enemy, they would lose 800 of their own. Moreover, the loss had to be borne by eternal realm powerhouses. It would hurt the foundation of the civilization, and weaker civilizations couldn't beat them. This was also the reason why the old man and the others were in a difficult position. They hoped that all the killed creatures of the country of mud and water would designate cause and effect designation to Luin. Because Luin wasn't eternal realm, it was useless to give him the cause and effect designation. However, it wasn't easy to give him the cause and effect designation. The creatures of the country of mud and water weren't stupid. They could freely designate the cause and effect designation target. Therefore, before the creatures of the country of mud and water were sure that they were killed, they had to let Luin deal with them. They also had to rely on Lu Yin's means to take them away first, and then Luin would fight the creatures of the country of mud and water alone. This wasn't easy. If the creatures of the country of mud and water felt that they were going to die, they would assign the cause and effect designation to the existence that attacked them before Luin appeared. Then, it would fail. The so-called cause and effect designation didn't necessarily have to be under the premise of certain death. It could also be before one thought that they were going to die. If Luin wasn't willing to take the initiative to cooperate, then it would be over. Whether it was the old man or Demao, no one wanted to bear the cause and effect of killing an eternal realm powerhouse. They couldn't bear it. Luin was very willing to complete the final blow for them and throw them into the hell of the general appointment platform before killing the powerful creatures of the country of mud and water. It would also benefit him, but he couldn't do anything less. The benefits he wanted were far more than just increasing the cause and effect. As for this cement, it wasn't eternal realm. It was written with civilization ink by the powerhouses of the country of mud and water. It was integrated with immortal matter and life energy, and it was raised to the level of eternal realm in a short time. Because of the characteristics of the creatures of the country of mud and water, it did achieve short-term immortality, but when the ink in its body was exhausted, it would fall to the eternal realm. The country of mud and water was a fishing civilization. Its fishing method was not one-line sky, but this cement, fake eternal realm cement. This cement was called mud doll. The information given by Bosse was very clear. The country of mud and water scattered all the mud dolls in all directions. These mud dolls each had their own means to attract the attention of an eternal realm civilization. Finally, they used themselves as bait to bring the country of mud and water over. Chapter 43-31. Luin knew that fishing methods included springboards, sourceboxes, evil thieves, and portals. Frontline sky and so on, but he didn't expect there to be a fake eternal realm. Mudwater Kingdom specialized in fishing for eternal realm civilizations. This civilization was quite disgusting, but it was also abnormally powerful. In the information given by 8 colors, there were 8 strongest elders in Mudwater Kingdom. They were the real eternal realm in Mudwater Kingdom. And they were eternal realms that suppressed eternal realms. They collected eternal realms into the civilization and became the important weapon of the civilization. They were not easy to deal with. Luin went through the information he had seen in his mind. His eyes fell on the mud doll, and he slowly said, "You told me before that you were traveling the distance of inches and looking for civilizations to collect and protect yourself, right?" The mud doll was cut in half by the triple blue sword intent, and it was very miserable. Yes, let me go. I'm no threat to you. Luine squatted down and stared at the cement. Mud doll. The cement shook, although there were no eyes. It looked at Luine in horror. How did you know? Mudwater Kingdom, Mud Doll. 8 elders, designated by karma, important weapon of the civilization. Your civilization can be summed up in 16 words. Civilization as a boat. Inheritor as an instrument. Faith as a movement, absolutely designated. The cement squirmed, and the voice was full of shock. You came from a fishing civilization and had a war with our Mudwater Kingdom. Otherwise, you wouldn't know so much. Luine stared at the cement. The war is about to start again. I have to thank you. It should be your existence that led Mudwater Kingdom here. Mudwater Kingdom and the fake Eternal Realm Mud Doll were bait, and the Mud Doll was caught by him. This war was so sudden that Luine naturally thought of this. He didn't know why Mudwater Kingdom was approaching. The Mud Doll said in a low voice, I'm not the only Mud Doll in this direction. It may be me, or it may not be. Say, if I completely erase you, Mudwater Kingdom shouldn't be able to find this direction, right? Luine said. The Mud Doll was very calm. You're threatening me. What do you want to know through me? You should know more about Mudwater Kingdom than I do. The Mud Doll is only responsible for being bait. It knows nothing about eternal realms in Mudwater Kingdom. Since your civilization has fought with us, you must know the abilities of the 8 elders better than me. So it's unrealistic for you to know anything through me. Luine waved his hand, and karma pierced through the clay doll as he continuously unleashed his karmic past. Time passed day by day, and in the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. There were only a few days left until the war began. During these 3 months, Niwa's karmic pasts hadn't been of any help to him. Just as Niwa had said, Mudwater Kingdom had sealed off all information regarding the Eternal Realm. He could see Mudwater Kingdom's cultivation and survival through Niwa's pasts, but he had no knowledge of Niwa's Eternal Realm strength. How could a creature that had been used as bait bring out valuable information? 8 colors had shown Luine a lot more than Mud Doll had. Luine casually threw the clay doll into Mount Supreme and sat by the stone table. Long she brewed some tea and placed it in front of Luine. Luine accepted it, but he did not drink it. Instead, he held it in his hand and enjoyed the warmth of the teacup. Between the rest of my life and the danger of immortality, I would rather choose the former. Luine looked at Long Shi, and he could clearly see his own reflection in her eyes. There was nothing else in her eyes besides him. I'm sorry for making you worry. Long Shi smiled faintly, looking back. The days with Long Chi were probably the happiest. Luine looked at the teacup. Most of the time, not knowing is much happier than knowing. Actually, people are very simple. It's enough to eat, wear warm clothes, have a lover, and be healthy. But the world is unpredictable, and it will never be as smooth as you think. The more you plan, the easier it is for accidents to happen. Some accidents will be like a bolt from the blue, catching people off guard. Long Shi looked at Lu Yin's side profile, so you would rather not know everything, and make up for the lost happiness with peace of mind. Lu Yin smiled. In a person's life, all the happiness they experience will eventually end in loneliness. Only peace of mind is eternal. Long Shi murmured, is your peace of mind selfless or selfish? Lu Yin's body shook, and he looked at the ripples in the tea, unable to answer. His peace of mind came from himself, because he protected the people he cared about, but the people he cared about also cared about him. Were those people's hearts at peace? Was it selfless or selfish? He didn't know either. Long Shi left, and Lu Yin looked at her back. She had lost a lot of weight. I'll try not to take risks, Lu Yin said. Long Shi paused and smiled, okay. Lu Yin drank the tea and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in the spiritualized universe, in front of Master Ching Chao. "Let's go together and join the battle." Master Ching Chao was stunned. "Me? What do you think? Do I have to join the battle too?" Lu Yin didn't say anything and just stared at him. Master Ching Chao refused. "I'm not unknown, and there's no need for me to join the battle. Also, with my strength, I can't join an unknown war. I'm facing a fishing civilization, and if I'm not careful, I'll die." Lu Yin said indifferently, "I didn't ask for your opinion." Then, he took out Mount Supreme. "Please come in, senior." Master Ching Chao frowned. "Mr. Lu, I can't help you much. You can drag 7 treasures heavenly toad, old 4, old 5, and the others to join the battle." The grayish-brown spaceship-like things above his head came from a civilization. Lu Yin didn't know what civilization it was, but there were many such civilizations on the battlefield. The unknown forced conscription wasn't only targeted at them, but also those civilizations that could be used by the unknown. Some were very strong, while others were ordinary. Once this method of placing a door next to a civilization was activated, it could lead that civilization into the door and bring them to this battlefield. Some civilizations would retreat as soon as they entered, but others would fight until they couldn't take it anymore. Now that the war had just begun, Lu Yin didn't even see the Mudwater Kingdom. He used mirroring to look into the distance. He saw that the grayish stream of water was the Mudwater Kingdom from 3 days away. One by one, the cement-like creatures rushed out of the Mudwater Kingdom. It took 3 days to reach the Eternal Realm, which was quite a distance. For a powerhouse who had passed bitter adversity, it would take several years or even longer. The war was about to happen. Lu Yin naturally wasn't in a hurry to take action. Their existence was to deal with the Eternal Realm powerhouses of the Mudwater Kingdom, not these small fries. His personal goal was to stay alive. Eternal Realm could take in civilizations, bitter adversity could take in races, and Primordial Realm could take in the stars and so on. The creatures of the Mudwater Kingdom used their civilizations as weapons, and when they encountered their enemies, they would throw out all sorts of weapons to crush them. Lu Yin looked into the distance and saw a civilization being instantly crushed by numerous treasures. No method could withstand the crushing pressure of these treasures, and the Mudwater Kingdom also had killing methods. Combined with their treasures, they displayed the terrifying strength of a fishing civilization. That civilization immediately retreated, but in the end, not a single one was left. They were all wiped out, but the door wasn't destroyed. Lu Yin used mirroring to see some existences in the Mudwater Kingdom pass through the door. It only took half a day for them to return and casually shatter the door. The civilization behind the door should have been taken in. He turned to look in another direction, where other civilizations had appeared. Door after door appeared in the sky, and he didn't know how many civilizations could be used. Would there be fishing civilizations among them? Lu Yin didn't see any on this battlefield. He only saw the Mudwater Kingdom being dragged in a certain direction by the Eternal Realm. Chapter 43-32. This battlefield was one of the regions where the Unknown and Mudwater Kingdom were fighting. Civilizations appeared one after another, and some reacted quickly enough to destroy the door. However, some didn't even have the ability to destroy the door. Lu Yin frowned. This couldn't go on, as it would only strengthen the Mudwater Kingdom. The more civilizations were absorbed, the more the Eternal Realm in the Mudwater Kingdom wanted to be absorbed. The unknown civilizations weren't trying to stop the Mudwater Kingdom, and they couldn't stop it either. They were forcing Lu Yin to take action. 8-Color was a sly old fox. Lu Yin's figure instantly disappeared, and he appeared directly above the Mudwater Kingdom. He clenched his fist. Boom! The Mudwater Kingdom below wasn't a true Mudwater Kingdom, but rather an Eternal Realm region that was also called a Mudwater Kingdom. An Eternal Realm was a unique feature of a Mudwater Kingdom. The true mud-water kingdom that 8-color and the others were talking about was a powerful kingdom that could contain the 8 elders of the mud-water kingdom. The ruler of that kingdom was called Inspirationalstories, and he was the strongest person in the mud-water kingdom. He was a terrifying existence that even the unknown civilizations feared, and Luin couldn't afford to provoke. The current ruler of this mud-water kingdom was one of the 8 elders, Gue. He didn't need long to confirm this. Of the 8 elders of the mud-water kingdom, Nibel was the only one. He could touch the rest. A terrifying force followed the force of his fist. It fiercely bombarded the mud-water kingdom. Within the mud-water kingdom, various civilizations' treasures were sent flying by Lu Yin's terrifying strength, but he didn't destroy them. After all, they were all civilizations. Of course, he didn't specifically protect them. Other than the human civilization, none of the civilizations in the core region were on Lu Yin's list of protection. He wasn't a saint, and he couldn't protect everything. He could only protect humans. A scoundrel. A low voice came from within the mud-water kingdom, and a cement-like creature appeared and stared at Luin. I've never absorbed a scoundrel before. You're the first. The cement stretched out and transformed into a claw that grabbed at Luin. Behind Luin, streaks of triple firmament sword intent gathered and slashed out. The triple firmament sword intent slashed at the claw, leaving no trace behind. How can a scoundrel like you resist the heavenly mud ghost claw? Little thing, be obedient and be absorbed by me. Ha ha ha. Mud ghost laughed. Luin raised an eyebrow. With the power of time, he immediately dodged to the side. The space around him froze, and time seemed to stagnate. The sharp claws appeared, but they missed. However, in the next instant, he felt a sharp pain in his back. He turned around and saw that the claw that should have missed was now behind him. They use civilizations to balance civilizations, and they use civilizations to kill civilizations in an attempt to contaminate the entire sphere. The entire sphere. Join my mud-water kingdom and you won't have to be afraid of the unknown. Although the unknown is powerful, they aren't invincible. The square inch is boundless, and there are civilizations that can fight against the unknown. I know. Since you appeared here and we were drawn here by the unknown, you must be a civilization that can fight against the unknown. We are not. Luin was surprised. Not. Mud Ghost said, we can only ensure that you don't have to be afraid of the unknown after joining, but it is impossible to defeat them. The unknown cannot be defeated. If that's the case, why do you still want to fight against the unknown? The unknown cannot be defeated, and neither can we. Little thing, come with me. With that, a piece of paper appeared in Mud Kingdom, and it kept folding until it covered the sky. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. This was Mud Ghost's true method. The paper folded into a mountain that pressed down on the starry sky, covering everything that Luin could see with the naked eye. At the same time, the heaven mud ghost claw grabbed at Luin from below. Up and down, it was forcing Luin. If Luin was just an ordinary rogue, he wouldn't have been able to block this move. Just the mountain formed by the civilization treasure wasn't something he could withstand. But he wasn't an ordinary rogue. He raised his arm and pressed his palm against the mountain of civilization, easily supporting it under Mud Ghost's shock. Mud Ghost exclaimed, "Impossible. How can you withstand the pressure of a civilization?" Luin didn't use any power, and he didn't need to. What he used was willpower. The civilization was not destroyed, and there was willpower in a civilization. He used the willpower of this civilization to resist the pressure of this civilization, easily making Mud Ghost doubt life. Below, the heaven Mud Ghost Claw waved casually and blasted Mud Ghost Claw back. Luin raised his other hand and raised his index finger. Streaks of triple firmament sword will slash down from top to bottom, slashing at Mud Kingdom, the water flow, and Mud Ghost. Mud Ghost sneered. So that's how it is. You're a ruthless character. You were just pretending, but do you really think you can deal with an eternal realm expert from a fishing civilization? Little thing, you're too arrogant. Let's see how much you can take. With that, the civilization treasure folded into pieces of paper blasted at Luin. At the same time, Mud Ghost himself also rushed at Luin. Luin was no stranger to this scene. He had been collected by Mud Doll and his portrait was drawn, but Mud Doll wasn't strong enough to draw him, but Mud Ghost was different. Luin pushed aside the civilization treasure, and his willpower offset the pressure of all the civilization treasures. These pieces of paper were really paper to him, and they were light as a feather. In front of him, Mud Ghost attacked, and in front of him was the heavenly Mud Ghost claw. The divine seal catalog bloomed above Lu Yin's head, and the triple firmament sword will, hidden sword, Sword Dao River. The Sword Dao River was magnificent as it poured down on Mud Ghost. The heavenly Mud Ghost claw was directly shattered by the Sword Dao River. Mud Ghost hurriedly dodged, and the Sword Dao River chased after it under Lu Yin's control. Mud Ghost was one of the 8 elders of Mud Kingdom, and it was rarely in such a difficult situation, mainly because the civilization treasures were useless against Luin. It would rather fight against an eternal realm expert, who didn't dare to take on the civilization treasures head-on for fear of destroying them and being bound by karma. Those who weren't eternal realm experts couldn't withstand the pressure of the civilization treasures. But who would have thought that it would run into Luin, who was able to ignore the civilization treasures' pressure with his shameless strength. Mud Ghost Claw couldn't withstand Lu Yin's strength, and all of its techniques were restrained. It was the heavenly Mud Ghost Claw that was being chased after. Lu Yin split off a portion of his Sword Dao River and directly slashed at the Mudwater Kingdom, tearing it apart and wiping out all of the Mudwater creatures within. There was no need to hold back, as these creatures were constantly collecting civilizations, races, and families. Those who had been collected would forever be trapped in a painting, unable to move. That kind of pain was enough to drive a person insane. The unknown was not a good thing, and the Mudwater Kingdom was no different. Actually, civilizations that were separated by inches only had survival, and there was no right or wrong. It was normal for the Ninth Firmament universe to attack other civilizations because they were too close. Compared to other civilizations, human civilization wasn't a good thing either. There were black and white walls in one's heart, and at this moment, Lu Yin's heart was completely leaning towards the black side. He killed without mercy. Mud Ghost roared, "You're courting death. I'll collect you and slowly torture you to death." The paper flew out of the Mudwater Kingdom and turned into tiny chains that continuously linked together. Finally, it turned into a large net that enveloped Lu Yin. The inescapable net. Lu Yin raised his hand and was about to use his willpower to dissolve it when he suddenly felt that something was wrong and dodged. The inescapable net continued to expand and enveloped him. This was not an ordinary civilization treasure, but an eternal life realm. Among the civilizations collected by the inescapable net, there were eternal life realms. Although it was said that the inescapable net was suppressed by the civilization, it was actually suppressed by the eternal life realm. Mud Ghost's body continued to boil. To be able to force me to become one of the 8 elders, this is my killer move. Little thing, you're the strongest among the rogues. Be obedient and be collected by me. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed as the inescapable net fell over his head. He had more than one way to break it, and at least he could teleport away immediately. But there was no need for that. Mud Ghost's strength was not enough to force him to teleport away. Chapter 43-33. It would be great if the 8 elders of Mud Kingdom were all as strong as Ni Gue. Unfortunately, Ni Gue should be the weakest among the 8 elders. Otherwise, Ba Color wouldn't have let him face him. Ba Color didn't know that his strength was constantly leaping and that his true strength was qualified to fight against an existence that fit the two laws. The inescapable net fell. Lu Yin's heavenly eye opened on his forehead, oppressing all living things from the inside out. Purple eye power was released, and the inescapable net was blocked by the purple eye power and couldn't fall. Ni Gue looked at Lu Yin, who was calm under the purple eye power, in disbelief. This was the weight of a civilization combined with the weight of an eternal life realm. How could he block it? It was equivalent to directly blocking the pressure of an eternal life realm. Was this something a scoundrel could do? The standard of the 8 elders of Mud Kingdom was to include eternal life realm experts. Otherwise, even if they achieved eternal life, they would be included by the 8 elders. Therefore, there would always be only 8 elders in Mud Kingdom. Ni Gue wasn't the weakest of the 8 elders, but he was still below average and not strong. If it weren't for his inherited karma, he wouldn't be able to represent the strength of a fishing civilization. Even so, he was still an eternal life realm expert and had a civilization treasure that included eternal life realm experts as a killer move. He had an absolute advantage against an eternal life realm expert of the same strength. However, he didn't expect to face Lu Yin. All methods were ineffective. How could this be? Where did this monster come from? Lu Yin took a step forward. In his palm, the triple firmament sword intent moved with his heart. A sword swept past, and Ni Gue's body was torn apart. He waved the inescapable net to bind Lu Yin. However, the inescapable net couldn't move as it was restrained by the purple eye power. The deep dark sky was now filled with purple. Lu Yin slashed down and cut open Ni Gue's body. Ni Gue kept resisting with the heavenly mud ghost claw, but it was powerless against Lu Yin's sword. The most frustrating thing was that karma couldn't threaten Lu Yin. This was the absolute method of Mud Kingdom and had a miraculous effect in restraining eternal life realm experts. However, it had encountered Lu Yin. Lu Yin's eyes were cold. As one of the 8 elders, he couldn't escape the reward. If the 8 elders were as strong as he was, he could kill his way through Mud Kingdom. Ni Gue ran away, dragging the inescapable net and running in the direction he came from. He was powerless in this battle. With Lu Yin's restraint, more than half of the 8 elders couldn't do anything to him. Suddenly, it thought of a possibility. "You're from the unknown." Lu Yin sneered. It was too late to think things through now. Combined with the unknown floating coffin and portal, it would be very difficult to kill him unless he encountered a battle similar to when Lu Yin had joined forces with Mr. Mu and the others to kill Hua Meng, or a powerhouse who had harmonized with 2 laws. Even a powerhouse who had harmonized with 2 laws might not be able to kill Lan Meng, who was focused on escaping. However, Lan Meng had just died. Lu Yin looked around and saw Lan Meng's corpse again. He also saw the shattered floating coffin and portal not too far away from the corpse. Lan Meng had tried to escape, but had he failed? Just like Hua Meng. Chapter 43-34. On this battlefield, the powerhouse of the Muddy Kingdom was actually able to stop Lan Meng from escaping using the hanging coffin and the door. He was definitely an existence that fit the 2 laws. Why did 8 colors arrange for Lan Meng to be on this battlefield? It knew that Lan Meng was heavily injured from his sneak attack on old ancestor Shan, and his strength was greatly weakened. Furthermore, they had arranged for him to be here. They were purposely sending Lan Meng to his death. No, it shouldn't be like this. Ba Color had just told him that the unknowers would not deliberately send anyone to their deaths, and now he had such a guess. Ba Color was not that stupid. Lu Yin stared at Lan Meng's corpse. Where were his wounds? Lan Meng had been heavily injured by old ancestor Shan. Even though Lu Yin couldn't clearly see where he had injured her, there were definitely scars. With old ancestor Shan's strength, it would be hard for him to recover in a few hundred years. However, Lan Mang's corpse did not have any external injuries. Lu Yin furrowed his brows and stared at it deeply. The more he looked, the more he felt that something was amiss. That wasn't Lan Mang's corpse, but an illusion. Lan Mang didn't die. But it must be on this battlefield, otherwise the eternal realm of the Mud-Water Kingdom could not deceive others with blue. Lu Yin exhaled and took a step forward, appearing on a desolate meteorite in the distance. He used his mirroring technique to peer into the distance. He looked in all directions along Lan Mang's direction. He had to find the existence of the Muddy Water Kingdom that used Lan Mang's corpse illusion as bait. Lan Mang didn't die, but there must have been a battle. In that case, the existence of this muddy country definitely wasn't all that powerful. At the very least, it was not an existence that Lu Yin could not deal with. Some of the 8 elders were strong, while some were weak. Of course, he had to deal with the weak ones. Even Lan Mang could escape. Not to mention him. Found it. Lu Yin stared at a spot not too far to the right of Lan Mang's corpse. There was a puddle of cement there that was easy to miss at first glance since it was the same color as the ground. However, there were traces of battle there, which was why Lu Yin had been able to find it. His celestial eye opened on his forehead, and his body instantly vanished. When he reappeared, he was right above the pile of cement, and he pressed down with his sword Dao River. The sword Dao River's sudden attack startled the Mud-Water Kingdom's powerhouse. It hadn't even noticed when Lu Yin had appeared, and it hurriedly dodged. At the same time, pieces of paper appeared and transformed into civilization weapons that shot towards Lu Yin. In the surroundings, the water droplets suddenly condensed in the void, flashing with a strange light. Everything that was visible to the naked eye was distorted, making it impossible to distinguish between space and distance. Lu Yin's lips curled up. Interesting. Was this a battle technique? Unfortunately, he was unable to confuse the heaven's eye. He had cultivated too much, and it was almost impossible for others to restrain him. On the other hand, he could easily restrain many powerful enemies. With the help of the water droplets, the cement rushed towards Lu Yin and covered him. He headed towards the cement, but the light distorted his sense of space and confused his direction, causing him to unconsciously head towards it. The cement expanded and was about to cover Lu Yin entirely. Lu Yin casually waved his hand, and the long river of sword Dao flowed down his arm and slashed through the sky, piercing through the cement that was coming at him. Cement was aghast. How could this be? It saw Lu Yin's mocking gaze. No, this unknown being wasn't affected. He was a scoundrel, not an eternal realm being. Why would an unknown person join the rogues? It would rather fight against an eternal life realm expert. Lu Yin raised a hand and used his sword finger technique. A rainbow-colored water droplet that contained boundless vitality and matter of eternity was pierced through by the sword finger technique and scattered. In the next moment, all the scattered water droplets were connected by light and gathered at one point. This point was still unable to stop the finger sword technique and was scattered by it. This guy couldn't even compare to Mud Ghost. Just as he thought of this, the finger sword art deviated from its trajectory and missed. Lu Yin was shocked. Had he missed? You're an Ni fan, Lu Yin said. He thought of one of the 8 elders of Ni fan, known as the Water Moon Ni fan. Water Moon was a very beautiful name that came from the unknown's description of Ni fan. It was good at using the environment to distort the void and refract the opponent's attacks. According to the unknown's information, Ni fan was only compatible with one law of the universe, but at its peak, it could refract the attacks of powerhouses that were compatible with 2 laws and escape. Compared to Mud Ghost, Ni fan wasn't good at killing, but it was better at dodging. An unknown scoundrel joined the fray. Ni fan's voice was soft, and water droplets constantly gathered around him. The long river of sword Dao slashed down from the void, but the water droplets completely refracted the attack and missed. Lu Yin had relied on Ni Fan's lack of understanding of him to successfully hit him once, but now, Ni Fan's fear of Lu Yin was no less than Lan Mang's. He treated Lu Yin like an ordinary Eternal Realm powerhouse and wouldn't be easily hit. But no matter how highly Ni Fan thought of Lu Yin, he would at most be on the same level as Lan Mang. But Lu Yin wasn't Lan Mang. Purple Eye Force suddenly descended, oppressing all life. Water droplets around Ni Fan instantly fell, unable to withstand the pressure. Lu Yin raised his hand, and the Gullion slashed horizontally. A surge of vitality crazily poured into Ni Fan's body. Ni Fan was aghast. Was this the law of the universe? This fellow wasn't an ordinary scoundrel. He wanted to retreat, but the oppressive force made it difficult for him to move. Ni Fan watched as the Gullion slashed horizontally, and ripples appeared around him that instantly spread into the distance. The Gullion's attack missed. Lu Yin raised a brow. He had clearly struck Ni Fan, but the attack had directly passed through it. This was a world that Ni Fan couldn't see. Ni Fan's figure constantly distorted like ripples on the surface of water. Even his voice was distorted. Who are you? You were recruited by the unknown. Even a scoundrel isn't as strong as you. Lu Yin tightened his grip on the Gullion and slashed down, but he still missed. He frowned. It wasn't as simple as just distorting the void. Anyone who could reach the Eternal Realm was a genius, and they all had their own methods. This Ni Fan had specifically researched how to dodge, so he really did have some skill. At the same time, his heaven's eye constantly sensed creatures staring at him. They were the creatures from the Muddy Kingdom. Some of the creatures from the Muddy Kingdom stuck to the ground like Ni Fan. They didn't move the entire Muddy Kingdom like Mud Ghost. Mud Ghost and Ni Fan had two different personalities. One was Xiangyang and was filled with the desire to attack, while the other was low-key and excelled at dodging. But no matter what, they couldn't avoid Lu Yin. Suddenly, Lu Yin paused and turned to look into the distance. Lan Mang. Far away, Lan Mang had been hiding from Ni Fan. He had been seriously injured and hadn't recovered in the past few years. If he hadn't already rejected the forced recruitment, he wouldn't have participated in this battle. Even if the 8 colors had arranged for him to fight against Ni Fan, one of the weakest of the 8 elders, he still wouldn't have been a match. After several clashes, he could only hide, and Ni Fan couldn't find him. Now, he actually saw Lu Yin fighting against Ni Fan. Whether it was Lu Yin or Ni Fan, he didn't want to face either of them. After a quick glance, he prepared to leave. This kind of battle could easily affect him. But in the next moment, he met Lu Yin's gaze. How did Lu Yin see him? Lan Mang was shocked, and he didn't hesitate to flee into the distance. Lu Yin sneered and teleported away. Ni Fan was stunned. He stared at the empty sky. Where did he go? His heart sank. This was an absolute expert, and he couldn't even see his movements clearly. He wasn't Lu Yin's match. He couldn't stay on this battlefield any longer. Elsewhere, Lu Yin appeared in front of Lan Mang. You can't be thinking of escaping while I teleport, right? Lu Yin smiled at Lan Mang. How many years had it been? Lan Mang had sensed Chi Su's death and accepted the mission to destroy the 3 universes to deal with them, which had attracted the tricolor Skybearer tribe and the 7 treasures heavenly towed. Lan Mang himself had fought with Lu Yin more than once. Back then, Lu Yin had been far from being Lan Mang's match. Now, Lan Mang didn't even have the courage to face him. Lan Mang stared at Lu Yin warily. What do you want to do? This is the battlefield between the unknown and the Mudwater Kingdom. Don't think that the unknown doesn't know what you've done. Lu Yin sneered. Using the unknown to suppress me is fine. I won't do anything to you, but I can bring Ni Fan here. How long do you think you can last against an Ifan? Lan Meng's 8 eyes stared at Lu Yin coldly. Behind his head, the blue halo was indistinct, and there was a blue hanging coffin beside him. I can escape back to Omniscient. Lu Yin nodded. Then escape. This isn't the first time you've been forced into a war. Believe it or not, even if this isn't a forced war, I still have ways to kill you. I've forced Red Hero to hide under the stars. He can't even come out. Lan Meng's eyes flashed. He stared at Lu Yin while also looking around, full of vigilance. Lu Yin naturally wouldn't attack Lan Meng. If he did, he would be courting death, and the 8 colors wouldn't let him off. However, it was fine as long as he didn't attack. He didn't care who won or lost in this war between the Unknown and the Mudwater Kingdom. They were all enemies, and it would be best if they all died. Lan Meng thought about it for a while but didn't return to Omniscient. A forced war wasn't something that could be left at will. Lu Yin didn't know the rules, but Lan Meng understood them very well. If he could leave at any time, how could he fight the war? The prerequisite for leaving was that he had to encounter a life-threatening situation. At the very least, Lu Yin had to lure Ni Fan over to threaten his life, and his body had to be on the verge of death before he could leave. Otherwise, he would be considered a traitor. Lan Meng gritted his teeth and growled, Lu Yin, I have nothing to do with your human civilization anymore, and my mission has been cancelled. Why are you still watching me? Lu Yin looked at Lan Meng. Who told you to sneak attack Ancestor Shan? The 7 treasures Heavenly Toad isn't from the human civilization. Even if you want to take revenge for the Toad, you shouldn't be looking for me. I didn't cause any fatal damage to Ancestor Shan. Listen to my question clearly. Who told you to sneak attack Ancestor Shan? Lan Meng's skeletal face became even more sinister. That has nothing to do with you. Lu Yin nodded. Then me bringing an Ifan here has nothing to do with you. You just happen to be here, so I can't do anything about it. Lu Yin, don't go too far. The 7 treasures Heavenly Toad wants to pay a visit to the Blue Sky Realm. Chapter 43-35. I really don't know. Actually, I didn't want to deal with Patriarch Shan. The 7 treasures Heavenly Toad is a civilization that I can use, but it doesn't count. You know how powerful the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad is, especially since that old fellow has even gone to Jixing. I don't dare to use him casually, let alone ambush him. At that time, I was still in the Blue Sky Realm when I was suddenly sent outside the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad. I saw your civilization's war with another civilization and was threatened to ambush Patriarch Shan. I can't let anyone know, or I will die. Lan Meng looked at Lu Yin. Can you imagine what kind of powerhouse could make me be thrown into the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad's territory without being able to resist? In order to not die, I can only do my best to hide the fact that I was forced to attack Patriarch Shan. Lu Yin narrowed his eyes. If Patriarch Shan had not said that he was being targeted by some existence and could not even escape using teleportation, Lu Yin would not have suspected Lan Meng. The old fellow said that he knows who is targeting Patriarch Shan. Lan Meng said in a low voice, then you should ask him. Perhaps he was the one who threw me into the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad's territory. Anyway, I don't know. If you don't believe me, you can use karma to investigate. It doesn't count as you attacking. Lu Yin did not hold back and used the karma spiral. Lan Meng did not dodge. He allowed Lu Yin to investigate. Every living being had secrets. Lan Meng was willing to let Lu Yin use karma to investigate without restraint. Either his secret had already been exposed to Lu Yin and there was no need to hide it, or the secret he was hiding was not within Lu Yin's knowledge. Unless Lu Yin could see through Lan Meng's entire life, he would not be able to discover this secret. How long had Lan Meng lived? It was impossible to use karma to see through his entire life. Lan Mang was also helpless. As long as it was possible, he would not allow Lu Yin to use karma to investigate. However, he had to clarify this matter. Otherwise, he would not have an easy time being targeted. The 7 treasures Heavenly Toad tribe still had experts alive. Lu Yin could not deal with him, but as long as he threw the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad into the blue sky realm, he would be finished. He believed that the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad would be happy to kill him. Therefore, this matter had to be clarified. It did not want to be the scapegoat for others. Lu Yin watched the scenes of Lan Mang's karmic past, and he had indeed seen Lan Mang's initial panic. Even Lan Mang himself did not know how he had appeared outside the Rainbow Tribe's territory. That existence was rather terrifying, and not only had it caused Patriarch Shan to feel apprehensive, but it also knew of Lan Mang's existence. Was he really that old man? Hee, who's that old guy? Lu Yin asked. Lan Mang said helplessly, "Do you think I know what it is? Although I've been with the unknown for a long time, I can't compare to those few. I've only heard my father's guess. Perhaps it is a strange life form that can peer into the long river of time." Your father. My father is also unknown. It was because my father was an unknown that I was able to join the unknown. This can be passed down. Lan Mang said, "It's not an inheritance. It's just that I'm strong enough, and I just happen to lack people." Then is your father still alive? He died long ago. What about Che? What is it? Tell me what you know about the unknowable beings. Lan Mang stared at Lu Yin. I won't say anything else. I've broken the rules. Even if you don't kill me, they can easily kill me. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. Why are you so obsessed with dealing with our human civilization? Lan Mang hesitated. Lu Yin said, "As long as I'm alive, you'll never be able to deal with the human civilization again. Why hide? Do you think that the current human civilization will decline one day? Even if it does, it will only happen after your blue sky realm is destroyed. I'll tell you clearly that before the human civilization is destroyed, I will first go to the blue sky realm to deal with you." Lan Mang's tone was cold. There's no need to threaten me. If you want to know, then I'll tell you. It's not a secret anyway, and those unknown old fellows should already know. I want to deal with your human civilization for the sake of the stabilized turbid treasure. Lu Yin was stunned. Stabilized turbid treasure. That's right. The human civilization was at the peak of its glory during the Nine Walls era. Even if it was unknown, the various civilizations had to unite to destroy it. During that era, the humans themselves were very powerful, but what was even more powerful was that each wall had its own unique stabilized turbid treasure. Those were the strongest of the turbid treasures, and I want to obtain one. Lu Yin's eyes flashed as he stared at Lan Mang without speaking. I've been staying in the Ninth Wall's universe all this time because I want to find the Ninth Wall's stabilized turbid treasure. We all know that everyone wants a stabilized turbid treasure. As long as I can obtain one, even if I'm only compatible with one law of the universe, I'll be able to fight against existences that are compatible with two. Are you satisfied with this answer? Lan Mang continued. Lu Yin asked, how much do you know about the stabilized turbid treasure of my Nine Walls civilization, and why are you so sure that it's in the 3 universes? If it really is in the 3 universes, why haven't Damao and the others taken action yet? Do you think it's your turn? Lan Mang sneered. That would require them to know that the stabilized turbid treasure is in your human civilization. My father told me about this, so I might as well tell you. After a pause, he changed the topic. I'm sincere enough in telling you this. From now on, you and I will have nothing to do with each other. If you're willing, I'll tell you. If not, I won't say anything else. At most, I'll just give up on the blue sky realm. Lu Yin agreed. Lan Mang and the human civilization had not reached the point where they would fight to the death. Even though the human civilization had faced many crises because of him, some crises would still erupt in the future even without him. It was just a matter of time. As for the 7 treasures heavenly towed, he had nothing to do with Lan Mang. The 7 treasures heavenly towed looking for Lan Mang had nothing to do with him. Furthermore, it would not be easy to find trouble with him now. Lu Yin did not know the exact coordinates of the blue sky realm, and Lan Mang would definitely not stay in the blue sky realm. Lan Mang heaved a sigh of relief. Lu Yin was very strong, but he did not know. He was not much of a threat under the rules, but there were too many powerhouses in the human civilization behind this person. Even Red Hero had been suppressed, let alone Lan Mang. The 7 treasures heavenly towed could kill him. He had not recovered from the heavy injuries caused by Patriarch Shan. If he provoked this fellow again, he would easily die. He needed time to recover. Teleportation was the nemesis of time. As long as Lu Yin did not appear, Lan Mang would have time to catch his breath. My father participated in the battle that destroyed the 9th Fort civilization, Lan Mang said in a low voice. Lu Yin was not surprised. According to his calculations, it was about time. After that battle, my father saw the second wall's chaos red umbrella enter a river of time with his own eyes. That river of time belongs to your 3 universes. Universes can move, and I calculated that it matches your 3 universes perfectly. Thus, I guessed that the red umbrella is in your 3 universes, Lan Mang said. Lu Yin thought of the woman in red who had entered the Mirage domain. If she was Hong Shuang, then it would make sense for her to bring the red umbrella into the Mirage domain. Now, it seemed that the woman in red was the second wall's master, Hong Shuang. She was in the Mirage domain, including the Chaos Red Umbrella. Before my father died, he told me the news and told me to find a way to go to the human civilization to find the Chaos Red treasure after I broke through to immortality. Lan Mang recalled. After I broke through to the eternal realm, I wanted to go to the human civilization to find it, but my strength was not enough to suppress the human civilization at that time. I had no choice but to join the unknowns, learn divine power, and obtain the hanging coffin and portal. However, the unknowns have their own rules. Chishu dealt with the human civilization, and I could only wait, day after day. Lan Mang's gaze was cold. It was a waste to let Chishu deal with the human civilization. She did not know that the human civilization had the Chaos Red treasure. I kept contacting her, but she never appeared. Gradually, I became suspicious, but I could not clearly feel Chishu's power, so I could only wait. Lu Yin could not help but admire Azure Lotus Emperor's methods. He had used Chishu's power to protect the human civilization for so long. Otherwise, Lan Mang would have acted long ago and lured the 7 treasures heavenly towed and the tricolor sky carrying race to him. Of course, he now knew that Azure Lotus Emperor was hiding his strength. In addition, he was Red Hero's 120% of the path of ruthlessness, so the 3 universes would not be affected. However, with Red Hero's attitude towards the 3 universes, it was fine as long as Azure Lotus Emperor did not die. He did not care about the survival of the others in the 3 universes. I've been waiting for the confirmation of Chishu's death, but I didn't expect you to show up as well. Lan Mang's gaze turned from cold to helpless, and his tone was full of helplessness. The other unknowns did not know that Red Umbrella had joined the 3 universes. Otherwise, it would not have been my turn to attack the human civilization. As for the 9th stronghold, it has long been Chia's mission. As long as the human cultivators who have escaped from the 9th stronghold are not dealt with, this mission will not be completed. Actually, everyone knows that Chia is looking for the Chaos Red treasure, but he hasn't been able to find it after so many years. If the other unknowns were to look for it, they might have found it long ago. However, no one can break the rules of the unknowns. Lan Mang looked at Lu Yin. The unknowns are fair. As long as the mission is in your hands, no one can take it away from you. Anyone who breaks the rules will not have a good ending. You don't have to remind me. Since you've told me all this, I've already agreed to have nothing to do with you. That's good. How much do you know about the Ninth Stronghold civilization? Lan Mang said helplessly, Father died too suddenly, so he did not have time to tell me. But it doesn't matter since the Ninth Stronghold civilization has already been destroyed. What Father cares about is the Chaos Red treasure. He told me to find it no matter what. As long as I can obtain one, it will be enough to protect me. The Chaos Red Umbrella, the Chaos Red Umbrella, the Celestial Eye, the Milky Way, the 7 Needles of Hell, the Searing Heart Candle, and the Cauldron. If you obtain one, you can protect yourself. If you obtain 2, you might be able to achieve glory. Lu Yin recalled the 9 Chaos Red treasures that Lan Mang had mentioned. The Celestial Eye. It should be in the Longevity civilization. The Red Umbrella had accompanied Hong Shuang into the Mirage domain, and the Cauldron was in Master's hands. As for the Searing Heart Candle, Patriarch Shan had once said that he had seen the human civilization on a huge candle. Could that be the Searing Heart Candle? If he could gather all 9 Chaos Red treasures, the human civilization might be able to regain its glory. But where were the other Chaos Red treasures? Have you obtained any of the 9 Chaos Red treasures? I don't know. No one completely understands the unknowns. Lu Yin asked Lan Mang many more questions. Lan Mang knew some of them, but he did not know most of them. As for the various unknowns, even if Lan Mang knew, he would not reveal them. Chapter 43-36. Lan Mang only told Lu Yin that there were 12 colors, corresponding to red, silver, and orange. Transparent, yellow, black, green, white, blue, cyan, purple, and 8 other colors. Among the 12 colors, Lu Yin knew that Chi Su, who represented red, and Hua, who represented silver, were dead. Orange was Red Hero, green was Yu Che, blue was Lan Mang, cyan was Demao, and purple was He. However, he did not know the true identities and species of He and Yu Che. Transparent, yellow, black, white, and 8 other colors, he did not know what they were. Yellow had a conversation, and its words were dissatisfied with human civilization. 8 colors were unknown and transparent. There was no trace of black or white at all. Lu Yin wanted to know more about the 12 colors. However, Lan Mang did not understand. If he faced a monster like He that had lived for a long time, he might be able to find out. As he thought about it, a small door appeared beside Lan Mang. Lan Mang said, "There are other unknowns contacting me." Lu Yin looked at the door. This was how the unknowns contacted each other on the battlefield. He did not have it because he had not completely joined the unknowns and did not worship the divine tree. Thus, only the 8 colors could contact him. Lan Mang looked at the door and connected with his divine power. A familiar voice came from the door. It was Demao. Lan Mang, is there any way to contact the human Lu Yin? Lan Mang looked at Lu Yin. Lu Yin smiled and nodded. Yes, Lan Mang replied. Demao raised its voice. I want to talk to him. Why are you looking for him? Lan Mang looked at Lu Yin and asked when Lu Yin did not respond. Of course I have something to do with him. Help me contact him. Demao was impatient. Lan Mang frowned. Why should I help you? Because I can protect you. Otherwise, with your half-dead body, you will not be able to return alive, Demao said sternly. Lan Mang sneered. At most, I will hide. It was afraid of Lu Yin because Lu Yin did things unconventionally and walked on the edge of the unknown's rules. His teleportation was especially disgusting. It could not avoid it even if it wanted to. It was possible to kill it without breaking the rules. However, Demao was different. They were on different battlefields, and it was an eternal realm. It had no advantage in the war with the Mudwater Kingdom and could not find trouble with it. Since Lu Yin could appear here, it meant that he had dealt with his opponent. Compared to Demao, Lu Yin was much more of a threat, and this had nothing to do with his own strength. Unknowns were fair. No matter how strong or weak they were not allowed to attack each other internally. Demao said in a low voice, "Help me contact him. It'll be good for you. We can give him the conditions to protect you first, at least to ensure that you can survive this war." Lu Yin looked at Lan Mang. "Ask him who is keeping an eye on Patriarch Shan." Lan Mang hesitated. Lu Yin frowned and stared at Lan Mang. Lan Mang did not want to get involved in this matter, as it still had a lingering fear from what had happened back then. That existence that it had been unable to resist was too terrifying, and if it really helped Lu Yin find out, then it was afraid that it would be in trouble. However, Ching Se probably didn't know. "Sure, you can contact Lu Yin, but tell me who was watching Patriarch Shan back then. Who forced me to ambush Patriarch Shan?" Lan Mang asked helplessly. The other party was silent for a moment, then said, "Are you asking me? What else? How would I know? Didn't you say you knew in Jixing?" Lan Mang asked. Demao sneered. "I was just playing with that little thing. You believe me?" "I don't know, but that old purple guy definitely knows. He will also contact you to find Lu Yin. You can ask him yourself." "Then you have no value," Lan Mang said. Demao growled, "Lan Mang, don't be ungrateful." Lan Mang said in a low voice, "You revealed the Blue Sky Realm. I haven't settled this with you yet, and you still want me to help you. It's just a name, not the coordinates. Believe it or not, if you don't help me, then when this war ends and you die, it's fine. If you don't die, then I'll give the coordinates to Lu Yin. Let's see if those human powerhouses and those damn toads behind him won't make trouble for you," Demao threatened. Lan Mang was furious. "You!" It did not dare to speak, as it was afraid that Demao would reveal the coordinates right now. Even though it had already said that it had nothing to do with Lu Yin, this kind of matter depended on the other party's sincerity. Once the coordinates were revealed, the initiative would be completely handed over to Lu Yin. This was not something it was willing to do. Lu Yin knew that Lan Mang would not speak again, so he said, "Demao, you were looking for me." "Lu Yin. You're right next to Lan Mang. Are you testing me?" Demao's tone was deep. Lu Yin smiled. "You want to chat with me? I have plenty of time. Take your time." Demao's tone changed. "Do you still remember what you said in Jizong before the war?" Lu Yin said, "This muddy kingdom is indeed troublesome. Once you feel that you will undoubtedly die and can't escape, you will specify karma. This is too disadvantageous for you eternal realm cultivators." "I understand. Tell me, what will it take for you to help us?" Demao said bluntly. Lu Yin did not understand. "The threat to you is karma. At worst, you can just not participate in the war. Why must you eliminate your opponent? Then why join the unknowns?" Demao asked. Lu Yin raised his eyebrows. Before he could answer, another door appeared beside Lan Mang. Lan Mang glanced at Lu Yin and connected with his divine power. "Little Lan Mang, can you contact that little guy Lu Yin?" This was the old man. Lu Yin's lips curled up. "I'm right here. Old man, if you want me to help you, sure. Tell me who is watching Ancestor Shan." Demao did not speak at this moment, as if he also wanted to know. The old man laughed. I don't know. Lu Yin raised his eyebrows. Didn't you say you knew? We were chatting happily. I was just following the conversation. Little guy, did you take it seriously? The old man's voice was very relaxed. Lu Yin sneered. Fine, then do as you wish. I won't help you in this battle. That's not up to you, the old man said. Lu Yin was amused. What, are you going to force me? It's temptation, not coercion. Little guy, I have no enmity towards you. What temptation? Tell me, who is watching Ancestor Shan? Don't take it seriously. Demao came to find you, right? What did he ask you to help him? Lu Yin glanced at the other door. Demao still did not speak. He will tell me your identity in exchange. He won't. He already agreed. He won't. Why? He doesn't know. Lu Yin frowned. Demao doesn't know your identity. His guess is not right. Little guy, why do you want to know my identity? I'm curious. You want to know about every unknown to use in the future battle with the unknown. That's not wise. Even your human civilization did not destroy the unknown during the 9 Strongholds era. Although the number of unknown is small, the water is deep. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. How deep? I can't see the bottom. Who is the deepest? I don't know. Lu Yin did not speak and looked at the 2 doors. Little guy, war is the fastest way to build friendship. There is no communication in the distance, but the unknown can. Do you want our friendship? Lu Yin said seriously, the foundation of friendship is to understand each other and be honest with each other. There will be such a day. You won't get anything from talking so much. Lu Yin, it's unrealistic for you to explore the unknown. We can't even do that. Let's solve the problem in front of us first. Demao was impatient. Old man, tell me what you want. The old man was not surprised that Demao was listening to their conversation. Little guy, what do you want? Be realistic. I want to help the human civilization add 10 immortal realms. Lu Yin, do you know what you're saying? Lu Yin said, is it too much? You 2 can get 5 each. Do you think the immortal realms can be increased as you wish? The mud dolls in the Mud Kingdom can be increased, but they will weaken when the time is up. This method is already quite impressive. Other civilizations have to rely on themselves if they want to increase the immortal realms. The Red Coat civilization under the Red Hero's ruthless path took the path of the ruthless path to reduce suffering. It will increase the probability of success, but how many can it increase? And if it is not for the ruthless path's inheritance to make up for the combat power, the Red Coat immortal realms they increase will not be comparable to their own cultivation. Those who rely on the universe reboot to break through to immortality are more powerful than those who use the ruthless path. The power of the Red Coat immortal realms comes from their inheritance of the ruthless path. If the Red Coat immortal realms are like this, how do you expect us to help the human civilization? Little guy, if the immortal realms can appear at will, the distance would have been messed up. Be realistic, especially when you're touching the upper limit. You will be unlucky. What upper limit? You will know in the future. Lu Yin was dissatisfied. Stop pretending. You old guys have benefited from joining the unknown, and the unknown war is the price you have to pay. Now that you've gotten the benefits, you want me to help you pay the price. Is this the reality? Killing the 8 elders is a 4 stars mission reward. We will figure out the opponent's strength, severely injure them, and then hand them to you. The reward will also be yours. This is a benefit for you. Lu Yin, do you know what a 4 stars reward means? De Mao said. The old guy continued, the distance of the square inch and the existence of the human civilization. Lu Yin's body trembled. Ba Color had said that the human civilization did exist. He thought it was referring to the Red Code Immortal Realms, but the old guy was obviously not referring to the Red Code Immortal Realms. The human civilization is very special. The unknown participated in the battle to destroy Ninth Base and is the mortal enemy of the human civilization. Therefore, anything related to the human civilization has a high value to the unknown. Little guy, you should have killed the 8 elders, but that's not enough. If you want to find other human civilizations, especially those that can help you, you will need at least a 5 stars mission reward. This has nothing to do with the combat power of the human civilization, but the degree of threat the unknown poses to the human civilization. For the unknown, the more human civilizations unite, the greater the danger. A 5 stars mission reward will be given to you if you help us kill our opponent. You will know where the other human civilizations are, and you will have a clearer understanding of the Ninth Base. This is the biggest benefit for you. Chapter 43-37. Lu Yin admitted that he was tempted. This old guy had been certain that he would help from the start. I really want to help you. Even if there are no other conditions, just the battlefield mission reward is enough for me to help. However, the reward is enough to buy my life, but it's not enough. Who wants your life? De Mao was irritable. Lu Yin calmly said, your opponents are definitely top powerhouses. The 8 colors won't send you to your deaths, even if you severely injure them. Even if you figure out their strength, it will still be dangerous for me to take over. At least under the premise of karma, you can't really beat them half to death, and I'll have to face at least half of your strength. You're so strong. I don't have the confidence to deal with half of you. Fighting is suicide. You have teleportation, karma, and various other methods. We'll help you formulate a battle strategy, De Mao said. Lu Yin shook his head. It's still too risky. I can slowly find the human civilization, and I'm confident that I can deal with Lan Meng's opponents. Killing 2 of the 8 elders will give me 2 4 stars mission rewards. I'm satisfied. What do you want? De Mao shouted. The old guy slowly said, I'll give you 1 chance to touch the Lord's River of Time. The air suddenly froze. Lu Yin looked at the door. He thought that he had heard wrong. Lan Meng also stared at the door. I'll give you 1 chance. A chance to touch the Lord's River of Time. This was the old guy's condition. The Lord's River of Time. It was a conceptual existence. However, everyone knew that it did exist, but it was difficult to touch. Time flowed in every universe, and if there was time, there would be the River of Time. The River of Time in all universes was just a tributary of the Lord's River of Time. No matter what level one could use the power of time, it was limited to their own universe. The Blood Tower Lord was like this, and so was Lu Yin himself. They couldn't touch the Lord's River of Time. Even the River of Time was a legend to them. But now, the old guy could actually let him touch the Lord's River of Time. Little guy, are you satisfied with this condition? The old guy asked calmly, his tone never changing. He knew from the start that no one could refuse this condition. Regardless of whether Lu Yin's touch of the River of Time was helpful or not, he couldn't refuse this temptation. No one could refuse. Lu Yin really didn't know what was the point of him touching the River of Time. Perhaps it could bring about a transformation in the power of time. Perhaps he could see the past like the first time he touched the River of Time. Or perhaps it could make flowing light transform again. He didn't know. Perhaps it was just a touch, a glance, or a flash. But even if it was just a flash, he couldn't reject it. All right. No one was surprised that Lu Yin had agreed. He would definitely agree. Wait for my notice. After this battle, I'll bring you to see what it means to be the master of the river of time. After speaking, the door disappeared. Lu Yin's eyes twinkled with excitement. The unknown door opened above the main river of time, so it could ignore the distance of space. After passing through the door, one would be in an endless distance. This meant that there were unknown existences who could freely enter the main river of time. How terrifying was this? From the looks of it now, it might just be that old man. Lu Yin looked at the other door. How is it, De Mao? He, this old fellow is very sincere, isn't he? What about you? De Mao fell silent. This old fellow's conditions had exceeded the limits of what it could offer. It didn't know how to convince Lu Yin to help, especially since they were enemies. Only then did Lan Meng regain his composure. There was an extremely terrifying expert hidden within the unknown. He knew that before his father had died, he had told Lan Meng about the stabilized treasure and also reminded him that he had to join the unknown. Only by joining the unknown would he be able to gain a foothold in the universe. After so many years, Lan Meng had always wanted to see through the unknown and make some guesses. But just as De Mao had said, even they couldn't see through the unknown, let alone Lan Meng. How about this? I'll help you raise a condition. Lu Yin looked at the door. Give me that mother forest of yours. De Mao was stunned. Mother forest? Lu Yin grunted. The one I saw before. It's the mother forest. The mother trees have been uprooted. Even if I give them to you, they won't be able to survive. I'm just keeping them fresh. They won't be able to support another universe. Lu Yin said, I know. That's why I want these mother trees to return to dust. That's all. What do you think? No one could see him absorbing the green motes of light from the mother trees, and De Mao was no exception. Their understanding of the mother trees was still limited, and they couldn't guess what Lu Yin was trying to do. However, Lu Yin was right. He really did want the mother trees to return to dust. Since the mother trees couldn't survive, he would let them be free. All right, I'll give them to you after this battle. Wait for my notice. All right. De Mao's door disappeared, and they all went to fight their opponents. They wanted to see their opponents clearly, injure them severely, and then hand them over to Lu Yin. This was what they needed to do, and all Lu Yin needed to do was wait. But before that, he had to find an Fan. He was still confident in dealing with an Fan. Lu Yin used mirroring to look into the distance. Where's an Fan? He continued to search, but an Fan couldn't have run far with its speed. However, he still couldn't find it even after several days. Lan Meng was waiting by his side. He was Lu Yin's channel of communication with the old man. He still couldn't find it. Lu Yin was speechless. Was this concern? What is it? It's great that you're fine. Violet and Cyan are asking you to help them deal with their opponents. It's best if you don't go. The more powerhouses you kill from Mudwater Nation, the easier it will be for Nibiru to target you. Nibiru is very powerful, and it will be difficult for you to escape from him. You don't need me to help you deal with your opponents? Lu Yin asked. There's no need. Actually, in a war with Mudwater Nation, having no losses is a victory. It's good that you're with Lan Meng, but it's too dangerous for you to interfere in other battles. Since you're with Lan Meng, it means that you've already dealt with your opponents. You killed one of the 8 elders, and your name has already been linked to Nibiru. Lu Yin did not understand. Why are you telling me this? Clear replied, we're both unknowns, so it's only right. You participated in the war that destroyed the 9th Wall civilization? Yes. Then why are you still willing to help me? You're an unknowns, not a 9th Wall civilization. I'm willing to help any unknowns, including Lan Mang. Don't get involved again. Aren't you afraid that the eighth color will find trouble with you? You're going against it, Lu Yin retorted. Clear smiled and said, it's not that exaggerated. It's just a war. It's fine as long as we don't lose. Is that what those old fogies are thinking as well? Lu Yin, in a war between civilizations, we can't afford to lose any of them. If we lose, we'll be half a step into the abyss of death. You'll understand this when you truly understand the concept. So no matter how difficult it is to deal with Mudwater Nation, Violet and the others will not let the unknowns lose. It's absolutely impossible. Lu Yin said in a low voice, was that what you thought during the war between the unknowns and the Ninth Wall civilization? You could say that. Got it. Clear's voice rang out again. After this war, I have something for you. It's a relic from the Fifth Stronghold. I participated in the war at the Fifth Stronghold. Lu Yin was shocked. The Fifth Stronghold. Yes, so you have to be careful in this war. Violet and the others will be fine. They're only looking for you to reduce their losses. But your life is your own, and you only have one. Remember, don't encounter Nibiru. He killed Xianling before. Lu Yin's expression changed. Killing Xianling before meant that teleportation would not allow him to escape Nibiru's killing intent. Chapter 43-38. It was not impossible for a fishing civilization to have a way to deal with teleportation. As the strongest person in Muddy Nation, it was not surprising that Ni Biluo had killed Xianling. It was just a guess. It was another thing to know. I got it. Thank you. No matter what Che had done in the past, at least it was reminding him now. Moreover, Lu Yin had to accept this favor since it was willing to return the Fifth Stronghold's relics. War was merciless, and there was no right or wrong. It was just a war between civilizations. But it was different outside of war. It did not have to return the Fifth Stronghold's relics. The portal disappeared. Lu Yin pondered. What was Che thinking? Was it helping every unknowable? In the worst-case scenario, could returning the Fifth Stronghold's relics be some kind of scheme? After all, it was an enemy, so Lu Yin had to think so. But no matter what, since Che had returned it, he would definitely take it. He would continue to wait for Damao and Old Man Hehe. He waited for 3 years. During these 3 years, Lu Yin had been with Lan Mang. He stayed on this battlefield, and 8 colors did not come looking for him. And Ni Fan was nowhere to be seen. It must have left this battlefield. This battlefield was the same as his previous one, and it was considered resolved. And 8 colors did not come looking for him either. It seemed that the other battlefields of the unknowns did not need reinforcements. No matter what, Muddy Nation was a fishing civilization. Now, it seemed like they were being suppressed by the unknowns. How much did Muddy Nation know about the unknowns? It should not be much. Otherwise, this battle might not have happened. Of course. He might have underestimated Muddy Nation. Although Ni Gue and Ni Fan were weak, it did not mean that the other 8 elders were weak. The unknowns also had existences like Lan Mang and Ni Fan, who were in line with the laws of the universe. On this day, the portal appeared. Lan Mang used his divine power to connect to it, and Damao's voice came out. Lu Yin, get ready to come over. Lu Yin's eyes were solemn. Information. Ni Bai used a civilization's treasure to collect the eternal realm and attached it to his body to form a powerful armor with supreme strength. This opponent is suitable for you. Strength? Lu Yin's eyes flashed. Indeed, it was suitable for him. Ni Bai's strength is considered average among the 8 elders. I've been testing it, and now I can see that it's in line with the laws of the universe. Movement can affect its surroundings. With power. To it, this is power. Stillness can also produce power because the universe is moving. The reason why it can be still is because it is using its power to offset the universe and make it move. This power of motion and stillness can form overlaps. It can overlap up to 100 times, and its power is considerable. The invisible world brought about by the laws of the universe can lock all power for its own use. Whether it's the power it unleashes or the power of the enemy, they will all be used in its world to increase its power. This is the information on Ni-Bi's battle strength. I have already severely injured it, but I also pretended to be heavily injured to avoid it. Otherwise, it might have directly targeted me. I will leave the rest to you. This invisible world was similar to the primogenitor's Azure Sky Palace, but the Azure Sky Palace could only use one's own power, which was equivalent to not consuming one's own body. This world, on the other hand, could use all of one's enemy's power. He took a deep breath. How is Ni-Bi's strength compared to Xie's? Ni-Bi is better at killing, but if we break its power, it will be useless, De Mao said. Lu Yin understood. De Mao, you're not planning on using Ni-Bi to deal with me, are you? In the entire Mudwater Kingdom, aside from Ni-Bi Luo, no one can break through teleportation. I also believe that you have other methods. I know how sinister humans can be, De Mao said in a low voice. Lu Yin didn't deny it. I'm just warning you. If you dare do that, I will make you pay a price worse than Red Hero. Kid, you think too highly of yourself, but I really don't plan on doing anything to you on this battlefield. Don't worry and go. De Mao was disdainful, but he didn't argue with Lu Yin. The door beside Lan Meng expanded, and Lu Yin walked towards it. Let's go together. Lan Meng was unwilling. I want to stay on this battlefield. If you don't go, how will the old guy contact me? De Mao, tell the old guy that Lan Meng won't cooperate, Lu Yin shouted. De Mao was impatient. Lan Meng, follow him. Otherwise, even if you walk out of this battlefield alive, you won't have an easy time. Lan Meng was sullen. If he had been at his peak, he wouldn't have been afraid of De Mao. De Mao couldn't personally take action, so he could just give up on the Blue Sky realm. Now, however, he could only follow. Lu Yin and Lan Meng passed through the door and arrived at a new universe. Lu Yin looked back at the door. This door was open in the river of time, and it could be used for both movement and communication. It was truly convenient. Time and space were like the two most extreme points of a square inch. If one grasped one could ignore the other. As long as one could freely walk through the river of time, spatial distance was not an issue. This was also one of the reasons why the unknowers didn't have circles. Their circles belonged to the entire square inch. The door shrank, and De Mao's voice rang out. It's healing near you. I don't know exactly where it is. Just look for the Mudwater Kingdom. It's very arrogant. Lu Yin nodded and used mirroring to look into the distance. Soon, he found the Mudwater Kingdom. Just to be cautious, he stared at the Mudwater Kingdom and then scanned his surroundings. He didn't feel his heart palpitate. At his level of strength, he trusted his senses more and more. If he felt his heart palpitate with a single glance, then he would definitely leave without hesitation. Even so, he still decided to test the waters. Thus, he placed a hand on Lan Meng's body. Lan Meng's skeletal face changed, and before he could react, he was grabbed by an irresistible force. Lu Yin teleported and then tossed towards the Mudwater Kingdom. In the distance, De Mao saw this and wasn't surprised. Lan Meng's strength had been damaged, and Lu Yin had used too much strength. He wanted to struggle free, but his body continued to crash into the Mudwater Kingdom. Various creatures appeared in the Mudwater Kingdom, and all sorts of civilizations' treasures shot towards Lan Meng. Lan Meng crashed into one of the civilization's treasures, and with some of the counterforce and his own remaining strength, he fled in another direction without hesitation. That bastard Lu Yin. Oh. You want to leave? A low voice came from the Mudwater Kingdom that shook the void. Immediately after, a chain was flung out like a snake towards Lan Meng. Lan Meng looked back, but the chain was faster than him. He shouted, "Lu Yin, why aren't you attacking?" Lu Yin watched calmly, not in a hurry. The chain was flung out, wrapping around Lan Meng. Lan Meng clenched his teeth. "Ni Bai, your opponent is not me." With that, he raised his hand, and a blue sword appeared. He slashed at the chain. With a bang, the chain was restrained for an instant, and Lan Meng increased his speed and fled into the distance. The chain danced in the air again, crossing the heavens as if it had bound the entire universe. "Blue unknowable, let's see where you can run." Lan Meng was furious. "Ni Bai, your opponent is the other one, not me. Stay." Ni Bai didn't listen at all. Above the chain, vitality bloomed, and it constantly spun, forming a battle technique that forcefully suppressed Lan Meng. Lan Meng was helpless. His blue sword continuously slashed at the chain, and then he let go of it. Sword shadows shot out from the void, forming swords. The sword shadows slashed at all directions of the chain. Lan Meng raised a claw and grabbed the chain, pulling it taut and allowing the sword shadows to slash at him. With a loud bang, the sword shadows fused together and cut off a section of the chain. Lan Meng took the opportunity to flee again. At this time, another chain flew out, followed by another in another direction, one after another. The white chain was a weapon of civilization, which was the best way to deal with the eternal life realm. Lan Meng hurriedly controlled the sword. If he slashed at these chains, he would be able to kill the civilization that had turned into a chain artifact. The karmic binding would then fall upon him, and he could only dodge. At the same time, he shouted for Lu Yin and Damao to attack. Within the Mudwater Kingdom, Ni Bai was on guard. Lan Meng's appearance was too strange. No matter how he looked at it, he had been thrown over. It was that blue unknowable. Using this blue unknowable to test him. Who was Lu Yin? He attacked Lan Meng while remaining vigilant of his surroundings. How many had come? The heavens suddenly turned blue. A blue halo fell from above, covering the Mudwater Kingdom. No creature could escape, and they were all bound by the blue halo. Lan Meng took advantage of this opportunity to escape. He had been forced to use the invisible world. Chains of civilization artifacts fell one after another. Ni Bai stared in the direction that Lan Meng had fled. He shattered the blue halo and pulled back the white chain. Suddenly, danger appeared. Lu Yin walked out with Go Lien in his hand. The river of sword Dao poured down as Go Lien slashed horizontally. The void distorted around Ni Bai's body as the power of motion and stillness locked down. Hiss! Half of Ni Bai's body was penetrated by Go Lien. The power of motion and stillness intertwined at the blade's edge. If not for this, Ni Bai's body would have already been split in two. Lu Yin's gaze trembled. Ni Bai was truly powerful. His sneak attack had actually failed. The power of motion and stillness was even more tyrannical than he had imagined. Ni Bai roared in anger, and the power of motion and stillness erupted, forcing Go Lien out. It continuously retreated, and the river of sword Dao poured down once more. Lu Yin's sneak attack had almost killed it. Ni Bai hadn't expected Lu Yin to attack silently. Moreover, his attack was even fiercer than the blue unknowable. It continuously retreated as the river of sword Dao poured down. Suddenly, an invisible force pushed the sword Dao river horizontally, causing the sword Dao river's attack to miss. The lock force realm locked down all forces, and the river of Sword Dao's attack also brought about power. Ni used this power to push the river of Sword Dao away. This feeling was similar to rune lines. The rune ancestors' rule of rune lines was that every action in the universe would have a corresponding effect. Rune lines were the embodiment of this effect, and rune lines could completely cancel out any action in the universe. One had to admit that the rune ancestors' creation was extremely far-sighted. Even the withering ancestor had said that things would move in the opposite direction when pushed to the extreme. One was the power of perception, while the other was the power of the body. Lu Yin slashed down with Go Lian again. Ni stared at Lu Yin, and the invisible force bombarded him. In this world, the enemy's attack could also become its attack. Lu Yin felt as if he had sunk into a swamp and couldn't exert any strength. Go Lian slowed down as the invisible force continued to drag it down. The more strength it exerted, the stronger the binding force became. End of chapter. Chapter 43-39. Lu Yin's pupils changed and turned into runes. Rune lines extended in front of him. An invisible force could be seen. An invisible world couldn't be represented by rune lines, but Ni's lockdown force boundary didn't just lock its own power, but also the influence of Lu Yin's power. Lu Yin could use rune lines to reflect that. Otherwise, if rune lines could reflect an invisible world, then there wouldn't be any invisible worlds in the universe. Lu Yin had tried before, but rune lines couldn't do it. Now, he could use it to reflect the rune lines of Ni's own power. Go Lian moved horizontally, avoiding the invisible force, and landed. Another invisible force bombarded Ni's eyes. This force came from its own body and couldn't be reflected by rune lines, but it couldn't completely block Go Lian. Go Lian paused for a moment before slashing down, brushing past Ni's body. Ni kept retreating. Something wasn't right. This unknown force had actually dodged its own attack. Impossible, how could it have seen it? It didn't believe it and faced Go Lian's relentless pursuit. It used the power of Go Lian's slash to lock it down again, responding to the invisible force. It was dodged again, and Go Lian brushed past its body again. Ni narrowly avoided it again and again. It didn't rely on Lu Yin's power. It relied on its own power. This unknown force could definitely see the invisible force that came from Ni's own body. Lu Yin gripped Go Lian tightly and slashed down, opening his celestial eye. Purple eye force formed a seal that trapped Ni. Ni couldn't escape and couldn't break out of the external eye. It could only fuse all the invisible force within the lockdown force boundary and attack. Lu Yin didn't need rune lines to know that the invisible force had gathered around Ni's body to resist Go Lian's slash. Thus, he disappeared and teleported away. In an instant, Lu Yin was gone. Ni's entire body was enveloped by the invisible force, and the lockdown force boundary's power erupted. This unknown force couldn't break through, and the stronger the attack, the more the invisible force would give it. It only needed to block for a moment, and the longer the stalemate, the better it would be. Ni had thought of all this. But he hadn't expected Lu Yin to disappear. Gone in an instant. What the hell? Where did he go? Ni looked around in a daze. It was really gone. How could it be so fast? This invisible world was enough to cover nearly half of the area covered by the Great Karma phenomenon, which was quite impressive. However, there was still no trace of Lu Yin. How could he have disappeared so quickly? Ni was uneasy and could only maintain the sealing force realm. However, several days passed, and Lu Yin did not appear. Half a month later, he still did not appear. It had no choice but to disperse the sealing force realm. But the moment the sealing force realm dissipated, a sense of horror appeared. The outer pupil incarnation slashed down with a goal yen. Fortunately, Ni was prepared for this. The collected civilization and eternal life realm were attached to the surface of its body, giving it a terrifying power that directly collided with goal yen. There was a loud bang, but Luin didn't move, and Ni didn't even take half a step back. The void distorted and tore apart where Golyen and Ni had collided. Ni was shocked. This unknown being was actually able to resist its power. It had thought that Luin was only fast and wanted to use speed to counter it, but it hadn't expected him to be so strong as well. Previously, the unknown green energy was already extremely powerful. Even if it went all out, it could only fight it to a standstill. No matter how powerful this unknown energy was, it could not reach that level. Thinking up to this point, the power of motion and static overlapped, continuously acting on its body. The sealing force realm appeared once again. Luin was gone again. Ni felt like it had punched the air. He had actually run away again. It roared, "Unknown, do you only know how to run? Get out here, unknown." In the distance, Luin frowned as he looked at Ni. His gaze shifted to Lan Meng, and he instantly appeared. Lan Meng saw Luin suddenly appear and wanted to give him a stab, but he restrained himself. "Contact Demao." Demao's voice soon came from the door. "You still haven't dealt with it." Luin said, "It's not heavily injured. If it was, it would have given me karma a long time ago." Demao was dissatisfied. "Do you think it's so easy to get benefits? Not only will I reward you for killing Ni, but I'll also give you the mother forest. Do you know how long it'll take to gather that forest?" Lu Yin's gaze was cold. "No need to pretend. Since I've agreed to this deal, I'll complete it." "Then why are you looking for me? What's the characteristic of Ni's invisible world?" "It locks power for one's own use." "I told you long ago." "How does it lock power? You want to learn it?" "Yes." It's a world formed by the laws of the universe. You can learn it, but you have to comprehend the laws of the universe. The power of motion and stillness. The power of motion and stillness is just the result. If you want to conform to the laws of motion and stillness, your understanding of the universe's power must reach a certain level. Otherwise, how can you comprehend it? It's because of this understanding that it can guide the lock-force realm. It's not as simple as the result, the process is the most complicated. Luin looked into the distance. He understood this principle, but he also had the process. He was confident that his control of power wasn't inferior to Ni's, and he also had the Sky Palace to prevent his power from dissipating. Demao must have injured him severely, or else he wouldn't have been able to keep probing like this. Luin had been testing Ni's power for an entire month, and the entire universe had been shattered under the bombardment of power. There were unknown civilizations that had been lured to the Muddy Kingdom's battle, but any that came through the portal would immediately flee. Those that couldn't escape would be destroyed on the other side, not even caring about their own race. The power of this battle was too terrifying. There were eternal realms among the civilizations that had been lured here, but there were also differences in strength. The power of this battle clearly wasn't an ordinary eternal realm. Ni grew more and more helpless as he fought. He hadn't recovered from his injuries, and now he was being held back by Luin. He couldn't suppress or escape, and this unknown was using him to probe the mysteries of his power. He knew it, but it was useless as he couldn't escape. The most disgusting thing was that this unknown was a scoundrel. He wasn't an eternal realm, so he didn't need to worry about the karmic restraints of the civilization's weapon. If he was an eternal realm expert, he would have a way to escape. At most, he would fight to the death. But his opponent wasn't even an eternal realm expert. The strong uneasiness made Ni's attacks weaker and weaker. Although he was still suppressing Luin, he wasn't as domineering as before. Luin was dissatisfied. Is this all you've got as one of the 8 elders of Muddy Kingdom? What kind of species are you? You have invisible speed and such power. Bai was irritable. Luin said, I gave you a month, but you didn't cherish it. Since that's the case, I won't be polite anymore. Then, he disappeared. Bai had just raised his vigilance to the highest level, and Lu Yin's sudden disappearance almost made him vomit blood. Despicable, too despicable. Luin frowned as he couldn't see clearly. Bai's use of power had already exceeded the height of being visible. It was impossible for him to comprehend it through the force lock realm and the power of motion and stillness. Every creature used their power differently. Karma was like that, and so was power. Perhaps there were millions of ways to use power. Comprehending by oneself was one way, and Bai's was another. If he wanted to comprehend Bai's power at the same time, it wouldn't be difficult for him to comprehend another way. In this 1 month, he had finally seen it clearly. Since that was the case, it was time to end it. He slowly closed his eyes and emptied his mind. He raised his arm, and the Go Lian entered his hand. On the surface of his body, his withered body suddenly recovered as he released all the absorbed power. He opened his eyes and teleported away. Chapter 43-40. In the distance, Bai remained vigilant, knowing that Luin would launch his sneak attack. In the next instant, Luin appeared. Luin appeared directly in front of Bai, using the Golian horizontal slash and the celestial eye. Slash. Bai released the lock force realm, the power of motion and stillness overlapping. Boom. Whoosh. As Go Lian swept past, Bai's body was split into 2. Go Lian dodged the formless energy from the lockdown world, but Bai had to bear the brunt of Lu Yin's strongest attack. This was the first time Lu Yin had used this attack, and it would also be the last time. Bai's body slowly fell. How could this power be? General appointing platform hell appeared. Luin waved his hand and was about to throw Bai in. At this moment, the formless power turned into a storm that swept up half of Bai's body. Luin teleported to block it. A feeling of suffocation assaulted him. This was the power that he had just used. Right, the lock force realm hadn't disappeared yet. His power had been locked down by Bai. Bai used this power to throw half of his body out. Luin had no choice but to dodge as he didn't want to take his own power head-on. Seeing half of Bai's body being thrown out, he teleported to block it again. This power was constantly being consumed and wasn't enough to throw Bai out of the lock force realm. Bai roared when he saw Luin blocking in front of him again. Around half of his body, the power of motion and stillness overlapped over 100 times. Boom. The starry sky distorted as the terrifying power squeezed the stars from both sides. Motion and stillness were connected and combined with the remaining power of the lock force realm to press down on Luin. Luin teleported again and disappeared. Teleportation gave him an invincible advantage. Bai smiled bitterly, so that's how it is. I should have known. That was teleportation, no wonder I lost. No wonder. Losing is fine. Dying is fine, but you won't get anything. Bai roared. The power of motion and stillness that squeezed the stars surged towards him. Lu Yin's pupils shrank. Crack. The void cracked with Bai at the center. Luin teleported out and saw Bai's broken body being swallowed by the void. You won't get anything. It saw the general appointment platform, and even though it didn't know what it was used for, it would rather die than be manipulated by Luin. Luin clenched his fist and teleported to the other half of Bai's body, kicking it into the hell of appointment stage. The karma heavenly Tao began to increase, but it didn't increase for long before it stopped. Ni was completely dead. Luin felt that it was a pity, as this Ni was too stubborn. This was in line with the characteristics of a cultivator who would rather die than let Luin obtain karma. He was clearly in the eternal life realm, but the karma he gained was similar to that of the great circle crossing Kuair. What a pity, what a pity. Now, all he could do was continue to wait. There was still that old man who was laughing. Actually, other than Demao and the old man Hihi, there were still a few that he had not met before. Did they not need his help? Luin teleported in front of Lan Meng, and at the same time, a portal appeared from 8 colors. Luin, congratulations on killing one of the 8 elders of Mudwater Nation, Ni Bai. You have received a 4 stars mission reward. You may choose battle techniques, cultivation methods, knowledge, resources, and more. Luin replied, I choose to acknowledge it. Please speak. I want to find other human civilizations. Lu Yin's expression was solemn. Demao and the old man Hihi had said that human civilizations were very special, and their corresponding rewards were not necessarily related to their combat power. A large part of the reason was related to the 9 bases. Even for the unknown, any remaining human civilization was very important. Lan Meng also looked at the portal curiously. How many human civilizations were left? 8 Colors' voice sounded, other than your 3 universes and Red Hero's underworld red coat, there are 3 more unknown human civilizations. Lu Yin's eyes lit up. They correspond to 2-star missions, 5-star missions, and... After a pause, 8 Colors continued, 6 stars missions. Lu Yin's body trembled. 6 stars missions. A 5-star mission was to destroy a fishing civilization. He had specifically asked what a 6 stars mission represented, but 8 Colors had not said, only telling him that he had to complete a 5-star mission to know. That was a mission above the fishing civilization. What human civilization needed a 6 stars mission? Could it be a powerhouse that was compatible with the 3 universal laws? Lu Yin first thought of the longevity civilization. He did not see Chang Ji's strength clearly, but the suffocating feeling he brought was absolutely horrifying. It was not inferior to Red Heroes. If the longevity civilization had completely inherited the original 4th barrier, then Chang Gu and the quintessence turbid treasure could definitely compete with Patriarch Shan. This civilization should be able to correspond to a 6 stars mission. There's a 2-star mission. Lu Yin was curious. 8 Colors said, it's just a remnant and unimportant human civilization. If you want to know, you can exchange it for a reward. Lu Yin pursed his lips, exchanging a 4 stars mission reward for a 2-star reward. You really know how to calculate. Up to you, 8 Colors said. Lu Yin could complete a 2-star mission at any time, but a 4 stars mission would be difficult to complete outside of this battlefield. How difficult would it be to destroy a civilization with 10 Eternal Realm experts and use other civilizations to destroy it? I've decided to save it first. I'll wait until I have enough 5-star rewards, Lu Yin said. 8 Colors replied, sure. Then, good luck. This time, 8 Colors did not ask for Lu Yin's assistance. Clearly, the other battlefields were advantageous to the unknowns. How long will this war last? Lu Yin asked Lan Meng. Lan Meng shook his head, I'm not sure. Every war can be long or short. As far as I know, the shortest war ended in just a few days, and the longest war. He glanced at Lu Yin but did not speak. Lu Yin understood that this was the war with the 9th Fort civilization. That war would definitely involve all members of the unknowns. Ever since he had come to this battlefield, Lu Yin had always had a question. What was the standard for the unknowns to participate in the war? Was it the invasion of the Mudwater Kingdom? However, 8 Colors had said that the unknowns did not have a circle, so there was no regional division. Even if the Mudwater Kingdom was close, it had nothing to do with the unknowns. This time, the Mudwater Kingdom was close to the Mud Doll being captured. Then, for the unknowns, what standard did the Mudwater Kingdom meet? Back then, the Death Universe had swept past the three universes, and it had been even closer. Had there been a war with the Death Universe? Luin asked this question, but he did not mention the Death Universe. Some situations needed to be analyzed on their own. Asking might lead to some clues, but it would also bring disaster. When was the last time the unknowns were forced to participate in a war? Lan Meng thought for a moment, a long time ago. At that time, I had just joined the unknowns and participated in a war against a fishing civilization. That fishing civilization was destroyed, and I could only protect myself in that war. Lui nodded and did not ask any more questions. That fishing civilization was clearly not the Death Universe. The Death Universe was one of the main culprits that had participated in the war that destroyed the Ninth Fort civilization. How could it be so easily destroyed by the unknowns? He looked into the distance. Where was Demao? Was he not planning to appear? At that moment, a strange scene appeared. A paper bridge was erected in the boundless starry sky. It stretched out from the distance and extended into the unseen distance. From Lu Yin's point of view, it was just a smear of white adorning the darkness, and he could not see the end. He hurriedly used mirroring, but he still could not see the end. This paper bridge exceeded the speed range of an eternal life realm cultivator by 20 years. He immediately teleported 10 times, but he still could not see the end of the bridge. This was already beyond the speed range of an ordinary eternal life realm cultivator by 100 years. As for how far it was, he did not know. Lu Yin returned, contact that old fellow. Lan Meng retracted his gaze from the paper bridge and contacted the old fellow. Soon, the old fellow's voice sounded, young man, are you looking for me? Lu Yin looked at the starry sky. Did you see the paper bridge? Of course, the entire battlefield can see it. This is Ni Bailuo's method. It is summoning the 8 elders. Ni Bailuo's method. Covering the entire battlefield. How big is the battlefield? Very, very big. Old man, don't keep me in suspense. Just tell me. I can't say. I am not an ordinary eternal life realm cultivator, and your understanding is still at the level of ordinary eternal life realm cultivators. He paused for a moment. Let's put it this way. To travel within a square inch, the eternal life realm is the prerequisite. If you do not reach the eternal life realm, you can only be trapped in your own universe. Only when you reach the eternal life realm can you travel within a square inch, but even then, the speed of an eternal life realm cultivator is only the speed of an ordinary person in a square inch. Within a square inch, the strength of a civilization and the strength of a creature is the most obvious indicator, the range of influence. An ordinary eternal life realm cultivator's attack range can encompass an entire universe or a few universes. If you encounter an existence whose attack range encompasses 10 universes, 100 universes, or even 10,000 universes, even if the two are equal in strength, who do you think has the right to speak? Lu Yin knew this principle. The right to speak was within the attack range. You don't have to pry into Ni Bailuo's attack range because it is beyond what you can bear. His opponent will not be you, but now you have been targeted by him. Ha! Lu Yin frowned. Ni Bailuo summoned the 8 elders because of me. Otherwise, the Mudwater Kingdom has the absolute means of karma and is not afraid of any powerful civilization. Even if it is facing me, it dares to confront force with force. It is certain that we will not dare to kill it. The only thing it is afraid of is a technological civilization. However, the Mudwater Kingdom has reached the level of a fishing civilization. How small is the probability of encountering a similar technological civilization? They do not need to think at all and can rampage within a square inch. But they met you in this battle. You killed 2 of the 8 elders in a row. There are only 8 in the entire Mudwater Kingdom. Ni Beluo is anxious. You have been targeted by him. You have damaged the foundation of the Mudwater Kingdom. The old man laughed. Luin was afraid. Aren't you afraid that I will not help you? Do you think that touching the long river of time is something an eternal life realm cultivator can do? Besides, as long as you kill one of the 8 elders, you will know the traces of the other human civilization. Little guy, you can't refuse. Luin sneered. Old man, don't think too highly of yourself. Ha! Chapter 43-41. Luin looked at the paper bridge, and his eyes flickered. It wasn't a good thing to be targeted by Ni Beluo. Existence is reason. Luin was confused. What do you mean? The old man sighed. This is Ni Beluo's power. Existence is reason. It believes that existence exists, so it appears reasonably. It's quite troublesome. Isn't this equivalent to creation? It's not that exaggerated, but you don't have to worry. Ni Beluo won't attack you. Why? Every one of the 8 elders has an opponent. Do you think Ni Beluo's opponent will let him escape so easily? Luin was curious. Who is Ni Beluo's opponent? Hee. Fine, I won't say. Old man. You're disgusting. Hee. After ending the conversation, Luin looked at the paper bridge again. Ni Beluo also had an opponent, but that opponent definitely wouldn't kill him as the price was too high. The karma binding of an expert like Ni Beluo was enough to make any existence lose its value. Just like Patriarch Shan, who had single-handedly killed an expert from the Dark Enlightenment civilization and was crippled by karma. Every life form that joined the unknown had a purpose, and they wouldn't sacrifice themselves for the unknown. The old man said that Ni Beluo wouldn't attack him, but Luin didn't believe him. He could use Ni Fan to threaten Lan Meng, but Ni Beluo's opponent could also allow Ni Beluo to attack him. As long as that unknown was hostile to him. The best way was to deal with the 8 elders and not help the old man. Touching the river of time was indeed tempting, but it wasn't as important as staying alive. This old man was too confident in himself. 8 elders. Ni Fan was the best choice, but this guy actually ran away. In the deep starry sky. The paper bridge extended, and at the beginning of the paper bridge was a huge country of mud. From time to time, white paper would appear in various forms. On the paper bridge, the creatures of the country of mud returned one by one. The paper bridge didn't build a bridge in the void, but it directly dragged the creatures of the country of mud back here. This was Ni Beluo. Within its range, existence was reason. Ni Gui's disappearance and Ni Bai's death were all caused by a scoundrel. This scoundrel has the ability to kill Ni Bai alone and is a huge threat to our country of mud. Scoundrel. How is that possible? Scoundrel is at most a match for Ni Jie, not even Ni Gui's match. How can he kill Ni Bai alone? Normally, rascal shouldn't be a match for Nijie. Although Nijie is one of the 8 weakest elders of Nijie, he still has the power of inheritance and civilization. Ordinary eternal life realm experts can't compare to them. That's right, Ni Bai is ranked 5th even among us 8 elders. He can easily defeat Ni Jie. He shouldn't have died in the hands of a scoundrel. He should have been heavily injured first and then killed by a scoundrel. Even the mud isn't stupid. Once it feels that its life is in danger, it would choose the cause and effect. Even if it was seriously injured by some unknown force, it would be certain that it would be fine when facing this rascal. Even so, it still died. This rascal is very strong. Everyone, don't forget that the unknown has never joined the rogue before. This is the first one. These words silenced the 8 elders. Yes, they could question common sense, but they could not question the unknown. Ni Fan, you fought with this scoundrel. What do you think? Not only does this scoundrel have very strong battle prowess, he has also been hiding himself. He is extremely cunning, and his speed is so fast that I can't even see him. Facing him, I don't even have the confidence to escape. So strong. Then how did you survive? The scoundrel suddenly left, so I left the battlefield. Let me deal with him. What about your opponent? Together. Don't think too highly of yourself. We can move unhindered not because of our battle prowess, but because of the cause and effect. Without this method, aside from Lord Ni Beluo, none of us would have survived. You think you can deal with 2 at once? Ni Fan, show me that scoundrel's form. I want to know what kind of scoundrel it is. All right. Lu Yin's image quickly appeared. It's this creature. Ni Beluo, you've seen it before. Yes, I've seen it in my battlefield. I didn't know that this creature would appear. I arranged for a mud doll to suppress it, but it was useless. So that scoundrel is from this civilization. I don't know. Is it in your battlefield? I've seen it too. I didn't know that there was such a creature. Is that so? Vast mountain smoke, sharp as rain. Take my sword, slay my enemy. The mountain sword lingers, revitalize my civilization. Take my sword, kill my enemy, the mountain sword is long, revive my civilization. A huge mountain towered in the sky. This mountain represented a civilization. This was not a part of the universe, but rather the mountain sword sect. Countless cultivators faced the mountain and bowed. Each cultivator carried a stone sword on their back. The mountain sword sect swords were stone swords that had been taken from the mountains and forged by themselves. At the top of the mountain, an old man gazed into the distance. He suddenly raised his hand, grabbed the stone sword in front of him, and slashed out. This was the mountain sword sect sword of grand momentum. A mud doll in the distance faced the old man's sword of grand momentum. White paper fluttered out and turned into countless rings that slashed out to resist the sword. The old man's stone sword kept dodging. Once it shattered the rings, it would bring about karma restraints. Because each ring represented a civilization, the karma restraints of a civilization were not easy to bear. The entire mountain sword sect had only one eternal life realm cultivator, and if he died, the mountain sword sect would be finished. A few years ago, the unknown door opened and led the mountain sword sect into the battlefield. The mountain sword sect and the mud kingdom started a war. The old man wanted to destroy the door as soon as possible, but it just so happened that there was a mud doll nearby. The old man had tried to force the mud doll back several times and leave the battlefield. Although the mud doll was not strong, the karma restraints brought about by collecting civilizations restricted the old man. The old man could not easily defeat it, so the stalemate had lasted until now. The stone sword suddenly expanded and suppressed the stars, slashing towards the mud doll. The mud doll had faced this move more than once. The stone sword was not sharp, but it was powerful and heavy, stirring the void. It could not resist, but because the stone sword was not sharp, it could not easily kill it. Even if the old man was willing to bear the karma restraints, it would not be easy to kill it. Bang bang bang. The stone sword slapped the void crazily. The old man walked out of the mountain sword sect, carrying the stone sword and trying to push the mud doll out of the door. If it did not work, he could just break the door. But the mud doll's civilization weapon was wrapped around the door. If he really broke the door by force, the karma restraints on the old man would make it difficult for him to move. In such a state, how was it different from death? At the foot of the mountain, the old man's disciples were indignant. "We are unfilial. We could not break through to immortality and resist the calamity for our master. How many years has it been? We let our master bear it alone. From bringing the mountain sword sect out of the universe until now, it has been all by our master alone. We are unfilial. We are unfilial." The old man sighed. "Idiot, forget it, forget it. The more you think, the more you can't break through to immortality. Perhaps this is the fate of our human civilization. If we can survive this calamity, so what if I give up my life?" As he spoke, he raised the stone sword high. "I am stupid. I have comprehended the power of the stone sword, but I can't make the decision to kill. I have harmed the human civilization. Master." The old man pushed the stone sword horizontally and wanted to break the door by force. Even if he was bound by karma, it was still better than the destruction of the civilization. Although an immortal realm bound by karma couldn't attack, it was enough to restrain other immortal realms and ensure the temporary safety of the human civilization. "Put it down and you will be free." The mud doll threw all the collected civilizations over, and they were constantly smashed by the stone sword. The old man closed his eyes, and the karma restraints continued to bind him. This feeling was like falling into a swamp, as if there were countless eyes looking at him. The death of these civilizations was counted on him. Although the mud doll also bore nearly half of it, he was not an immortal realm at all, so he didn't care. Just at the moment when the stone sword was about to hit the door, the mud doll had been squeezed to the other side of the door. The sword stopped. It was a creature from another muddy country, one of the 8 elders, Ni. Above the mountain sword sect, the old man's eyes widened. Not good. He suddenly exerted force, and the aura of life boiled. The mountain sword's profound meaning pressed down. At the same time, the invisible world was released, and the mountain sword became bigger again, as if covering the entire sky. On the other side of the door, Ni was disdainful. The gap was too big. It was just an ordinary immortal realm. The white paper fluttered, condensed, and pierced out. The white paper pierced the stone sword, and along the stone sword, it directly pierced the old man's shoulder. Blood splattered on the mountain peak, and the old man retreated step by step. He gritted his teeth and forced himself to use his strongest strength to break the door, but it was already over. The white paper shuttled back and forth, constantly piercing the old man's body. Blood splattered in the sky. The old man's disciples' eyes widened, and they screamed crazily. Some disciples rushed up to stop the white paper, but the paper pierced through their bodies, and they exploded and died. The old man roared and retracted the stone sword. The stone sword faced the white paper as if it was nothing. It was directly penetrated, and the white paper pierced the old man's body again. The old man spat out a mouthful of blood and knelt on one knee. His face was pale. The sky above the mountain sword sect darkened. Everyone looked up and watched in despair as the mountain peak cracked. The white paper changed, and Ni appeared on it. Ni came quickly and disappeared even faster. At the same time, he took the mountain sword sect with him. Not long after Ni left, a shadow appeared and was surprised. This is the remnants of the human civilization. The muddy country took this civilization away to deal with Luin. It seems that Cyan and the others really let Luin take action. Interesting. Under the starry sky, Luin sat cross-legged with Lan Mang nearby. Half a year had passed since he killed Ni Bai and saw Ni Bailuo gather the 8 elders. The paper bridge had long since disappeared, and the battlefield should have regained its peace. After all, the 8 elders hadn't appeared. The unknown ones hadn't taken the initiative to gather all of the unknowns to attack the muddy country. The country's gangster-like nature terrified everyone. Lu Yin couldn't destroy the entire muddy country by himself, especially with Ni Bailuo on the battlefield. He wouldn't even go for the final harvest, it was too dangerous. Contact the old man and see what's going on, Lu Yin said. Lan Meng contacted the old man. The 8 elders aren't here yet. What's the rush? If they don't come, are we going to keep wasting time on this battlefield? Time has no meaning to eternal beings. What's the standard for a forced conscription? Under what circumstances will the war begin? The human civilization that requires a 5-star mission reward or even higher is not included in this list. Lu Yin asked, is this the human civilization that can be learned after completing a 2-star mission? I think so. Why? Do you want to fight? Oh right, I almost forgot. Humans are very complicated creatures. When they are heartless, they can betray everything. When they have feelings, they can be fearless of death. This is Ni Bailuo's test for you. He is trying to determine if you care about your own kind. If I care, I'll be falling into its trap. The human civilization will definitely be controlled by it. Not bad. What if I don't care? That human civilization will be collected just like the other civilizations collected by the creatures of the Mudwater Kingdom. Of course, there will be no pain in death, but if you care, unless you have the confidence to save them, what awaits them will be torture worse than death. The old man gloated. Value can give you a perfect life, but it can also give you a life of despair. Under the starry sky, the clay doll leisurely attached itself to the middle-aged man's head. The middle-aged man walked with difficulty like a puppet in extreme pain. Suddenly, time stagnated and gray flowed. Lu Yin instantly appeared in front of the middle-aged man and pointed at the clay doll. The clay doll saw it and wanted to fight back, but it found that it could not move. The purple eye power had trapped it. All of this happened in an instant. The next moment, Lu Yin's finger pierced through the clay doll and pulled it off the middle-aged man's body. He threw it into the God Catalog. Triple firmament sword intent, hidden sword. The sword flashed wildly, and the clay doll could not fight back and was severely injured. As an eternal realm, even if it was forcefully pushed to the eternal realm, it should have been able to fight back against Lu Yin. However, it could not fight back. Teleportation, time stagnation, and Lu Yin's rich experience in fighting the 8 elders of the Mudwater Kingdom on the battlefield. If he encountered an opponent at the same level as Mud Ghost, Lu Yin was confident that he would not be able to fight back. The absolute methods that the Mudwater Kingdom was so proud of were worthless in front of him. The middle-aged man's body collapsed, and Lu Yin supported him. They landed on a planet that was overgrown with vegetation and filled with all sorts of auras. Strange creatures made noises, but when Lu Yin landed on the planet, they all calmed down due to fear. No, don't kill it. The middle-aged man opened his hazy eyes, blood vessels sticking to his eyelids as he spoke with difficulty. Lu Yin said, I didn't kill it. It has its uses. Cough, cough, cough. Lu Yin healed the middle-aged man, but he found that the man's organs were shattered. His meridians and blood were congealing. He could not live at all. Thank you. Where is the Mountain Sword Sect? The doll took out a piece of white paper and folded it into a paper bridge. This can take you there. It was obvious that this was a test from the Mudwater Kingdom. Just as the old man had said, the Mudwater Kingdom was not sure whether this human civilization cared about its own race. This was just a test. It did not matter if they did not care, but if they did, they could use this opportunity to get rid of Lu Yin. The Mudwater Kingdom was not afraid of an unknown number of powerful eternal realms, but they were afraid of a scoundrel like Lu Yin. The Mudwater Kingdom could not tolerate such an existence, especially since Lu Yin had caused them to suffer heavy losses. What if I don't go? If you don't show up, half of you will die, the doll replied. Lu Yin exhaled, and the naming platform hell appeared. He threw the doll in to increase his karmic power while he stared into the distance. The Mountain Sword sect was not a sect, but rather a remnant of human civilization. All of them had gathered in the Mountain Sword sect under the protection of that eternal realm ancestor. That was an entire civilization. This civilization should be the same as the Tianyuan universe and the others. They had once been bait, but because of Red Hero's betrayal and the collapse of the second stronghold, those powerful enemies had stopped chasing after the bait and instead attacked the 9th base. That was how they had survived. They were the same as the Mountain Sword sect. Lu Yin could not watch as half of the Mountain Sword sect's people died, and it was all because of him. But how could he save them? What awaited him was what the Mudwater Kingdom believed to be a hopeless situation. Lu Yin was not so arrogant as to think that he could single-handedly break the deadlock of a fishing civilization. His teleportation, crow immobilization, karma, and so on could not make up for the huge gap between him and an absolute powerhouse. Lan Meng arrived, and the door beside him was still open. The old man's voice could be heard. "Little guy, are you troubled?" Lu Yin did not answer. As expected, you haven't cultivated for long enough. You haven't seen this universe clearly. Lu Yin's eyes moved, and he looked at the door. These words sounded familiar, as Grandmaster Grass had said them several times before. The universe is a cycle, and all living things are formed from the material of the universe itself. When a living thing dies, its material will recombine to form another living thing. The so-called reluctance to part with life comes from emotional ties. Humans have too many emotional ties, which is why they have ended up like this. If you don't save them, then this war will quickly pass, and their lives will have nothing to do with you. It is their own incompetence. Or do you think that you can save them by yourself? You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.